So what is interest? Interest is the charge or the rent that you pay to use somebody else's money. When you borrow their money, they charge you. That's, it's got to be something in it for them for lending their money to you to use, right? So we call that interest. That's the rent that you pay for the privilege of using somebody else's money. Now, that rent is charged on an annual basis. If the interest rate's 5%, for example, you borrow 100,000, it's 100,000 times 5%. And we're going to go over how to calculate each month what you pay in interest versus the principal to figure out how much of your monthly mortgage payment goes towards both. All right. The value is 100%. Okay. Value is just a word that means 100%. When we're trying to calculate value, we're trying to calculate all of it, right? So value is equal to 100%. Now, the LTV is the loan to value ratio. Whenever a lender loans you money, they're usually not going to lend you 100% of the money that you need. They want you to have some of your own money. So they want you to have a little skin in the game if they're going to be lending you money, just to make sure that you're not going to walk away in the event property values go down or anything, because you have something to lose as well, right? Now, for example, to give here an LTV ratio of 80%, that means that the lender will loan you 80% of the appraised value of the property. That means the borrower has to put down how much?
20%.
20%, right? If they're going to lend you 80%, then you got to put down the other 20. So you see how it's easy to figure out. If they give you the LTV, it's easy to figure out how much money you need, right? Mm-hmm. If it's an FHA loan, FHA typically requires 3.5% down payment. So the LTV on that would be 96.5 as an example I have written up here already. Now, equity is the difference between the market value of the property and what's owed on it. Okay, so equity is a word. This is a good definition for equity. It's a difference between the value of the property and what's owed on it. And there's a couple different ways that you could raise equity through periodic payments, paying down the principal. You create more equity, right? So paying down the debt, that's the first one. Even though I got it listed as the last one there. Here, let's move these around. Just shuffle that around a little bit. Okay. The market values just increase on their own. Market values go up and they go down. The markets are cyclical, right? So as the market value goes up, you could gain equity that way. Or you could force the value, an increase of equity by doing home improvements, right? Put a little sweat equity into it, right? Where that means you're doing the work yourself. You're not paying somebody else necessarily to do it, but you could gain equity by doing improvements on the property yourself, right? That'll also increase your value. So, for example, you buy a property for $300,000, right? And the market values just go up on their own, and they go up by 10,000. So if you bought the property for 10,000, okay, say you didn't make any payments on it yet, but now it's worth 310,000. Mm-hmm. You see how you just gained equity of $10,000 without doing anything to the property? That's because the market value went up. Okay. Now you could also gain equity by doing improvements. So say that the market value just went up, but let's just say you did some improvements on the house and you raised the value on it by another 10,000. All right. So now it's $320,000. Okay. So the difference from your baseline where you started here and what the current value is, right? So here. So you started out over here, $300,000. It went up $10,000. It's now here. You did some improvements on the property, and now it's worth another $10,000 up here. You see, these are the different ways that you could force the increase of equity. Or you could pay down the debt what's owed. So let's just say you pay down I don't know, you hit the pick five or something, and you pay down $10,000 on what you owe on the property. So now you only owe $290,000 on the property, right? So wait a minute, aren't you increasing that difference here between what's owed and the current value? I'm sorry, what you owe. Here's what you owe. And here's the current, here's the current value now, right? So you increased it another. So it went up 10, 20, and now $30,000 equity you have in that property. Okay, you guys see that?
Yes.
All right. Now, interest rates fluctuate as the money becomes available or unavailable. So when interest rates are high, alternative forms of financing may be more attractive to a buyer. Adjustable rate mortgages, for example, would allow a lower monthly payment because it shifts that risk or reward from changing interest rates from the lender onto the borrower. Seller financing also becomes attractive in times when the banks aren't lending, right? That may be an attractive option to a buyer when it's hard to get a loan because the banks just aren't lending. Government programs may have higher LTV ratios that allow you to borrow more money. Like the FHA only requires, FHA is the Federal Housing Administration. They only require 3.5% down payment. The VA is the Veterans Administration. They only require no down payment. They'll give you 100% financing, but you need to be a veteran, honorably discharged veteran or an active member veteran with meet certain qualifications in order to qualify for the VA programs. Now, there's state programs that are available through the New Jersey Housing Mortgage and Finance Agency. That's the NJHMFA for short. They have all kinds of attractive financing options with little or no down payment for buyers. The USDA, that's the United States Department of Agriculture. They give loans to people in rural areas, not just to farmers, but also people who live in rural areas. And it is possible that even today, you could still get 100% financing from people from the USDA. And there's other loan programs available as well. And we're going to get into some of them. But before we do, on the first page of 235, let's highlight the last line. Interest is the rent that the borrower pays the lender for the use of the lender's money. Okay. Then turn the page. And then we're going to highlight the amount of mortgage loan in relation to the value of the home is the LTV ratio. Now, where it says in relation to the value, I want you to write up the word appraised above the word value there, in relation to the appraised value of the home, not just some ridiculous price that somebody got carried away with in a bidding war. Now, the term amortize means to kill off slowly over time. And that's exactly what you do. You're slowly killing off the debt, agonizingly slow. Over 30 years is the average mortgage, right, term? So you're agonizingly killing it slowly off, that debt slowly off over time of periodic payments towards the principal, that's the amount that you borrowed, and the interest, the rent that you pay on the amount that you borrow, right? So what do you think? If you're paying back the amount you borrowed plus interest, aren't you going to be paying back more than you borrowed? Yes. Okay. So that house is going to cost you more than whatever price you just paid for it. So it makes more sense to borrow less if you have it, to put as much money down as you possibly can. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay rent on all that money that you borrow over that 30-year term. So a fully amortized loan. Wait, what does the word amortize mean?
Kill off.
Kill off.
Kill off. So a fully amortized loan. Let's do the translation in our heads right now. If amortize means killed off, or to kill off. Fully killed off is what fully amortized means. Got it? So by the time you make your last mortgage payment, that loan has been fully killed. There's no other payment to be made. It's been fully amortized, fully killed off. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
See, I want to explain it like this so that you guys can remember it a little bit like that. I want you guys to define these words like this every time you're reading them. Amortized means to kill off. Fully amortized means fully killed off. Okay? So now in a fully amortized loan, your monthly mortgage payment goes towards both principal and interest. However, the amount goes to pay off interest first, and then whatever's left goes to pay down the principal, the amount that you borrowed. So in a fully amortized loan, payments get applied first to the interest owed, and then the balance towards the principal over the life of the loan. Okay. Mm-hmm. So by the time the last payment is made, the loan has been fully amortized or fully killed off, and the balance should be zero at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So let's highlight under payment plans. Amortize means to kill off slowly over time. Then in the third sentence there, regular payments we're going to highlight are applied first to interest owed, and the balance is applied to the principal over the term. Whatever that term may be. Okay. They also refer to these loans as self-liquidating because, you know, they, I guess they melt away. I don't know where that term liquidation comes from, but liquidating, whatever, it's killing it off. It's melting away, running off the debt. Okay, so let's go to the second bullet point under fixed rate loans now. We know that we already did the fully amortized means kill off. It means fully killed, right? Fully amortized loan is a loan that has been fully killed. Tight with me. I got to open my notes here too.
Victor.
Yes, sir.
Quick question.
Sure.
And one of the ways, so when you make the first payment, like you said, the first payment goes to the principal, then the interest. If you made a second payment, let's say before the next payment due, would that whole payment will go to the interest?
If you don't state that you want it to go towards the principal.
Interest. So you have to make that clear where you want it to go.
Oh, yes. Otherwise, the lender just next month, they'll be like, oh, you're okay this month. You don't need to make a payment.
Got it.
You paid our rent in advance. Thank you.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Which you don't want to do that. If you got that extra cash laying around, you want to pay down the principal. I want to put it all towards principal. Do you know that if you do that once a year, if you make one extra payment every year, and you apply that entire amount towards the principal, you could kill off a 30-year loan 7 to 8 years quicker. You could pay it off sooner.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. And for people who have trouble saving the money, if the money's sitting there is burning a hole in their pocket that they got to spend it on something, there's a way that you could set up the loan so that it becomes kind of transparent to you that this is actually happening. We call it a bi-weekly mortgage. It's not making a mortgage payment every 2 weeks. It's making a half a mortgage payment every 2 weeks. Okay, it's not making 2 payments a month. It's making half a mortgage payment every 2 weeks. And I'm going to show you what that is once we get to it in just a second here.
Victor, I have a quick question. Is there a certain amount that you have to pay extra once a year for it to shorten the period of time that you're paying the mortgage?
Well, like I said, if you make one extra mortgage payment and that entire amount goes towards principal only, you'll shorten it in 7 to 8 years. But yeah, if you get extra money here or there, make an extra a payment towards the principal only. But you got to specify it's going to be applied to the principal only. Okay, you don't want to pay rent in advance. You want to pay the principal.
Gotcha.
Right, so that you don't have to pay as much rent in the long run. Right? They charge you interest based on your balance. So if you pay down your balance in advance, that's less rent they could charge you interest on. Because your rent, think of this rent is not like your monthly mortgage, not like your like if you're renting a house, it's a fixed rent every month, right? It may be that way in a fixed rate mortgage where your first mortgage payment and your last mortgage payment are the same. However, if you start paying down that debt, it's less of a balance that they could charge you the interest on over the life of the loan, because they calculate the interest based off of the amount that's owed times 12, the amount that's owed divided by 12, and that shows you how much interest you'd be having to pay that month. For instance, let's do a quick little math problem, shall we? Oh, I guess it would help if I brought you to the same screen that I was on, wouldn't it? Okay, here's the whiteboard. And let me just erase this. So if you have, for example, if you borrowed, not the purchase price, but the amount you borrowed was $300,000, right? And it was at a 5% interest rate. Who cares how many years, okay? If you take $300,000 times 5%, that's $15,000. All right, so 300,000 times 5%, that's $15,000 in annual interest. Divide that by 12 months, because you're going to be making the 12 monthly mortgage payments, right? Or there's 12 payments in a year, so divide that by 12. And so that first month's mortgage payment, the amount that goes towards the interest is $1,250 without even knowing what your monthly mortgage payment is. I just know it's going to be $1,250. Okay. So now how much do you owe next month? Well, I don't know, because I didn't know how much went towards the principal of your mortgage payment there. But that first month you paid $1,250. Well, what about this? What if I paid down an extra mortgage payment and I paid, let's say I made $2,000 or $2,500 payment. That sounds like about an extra mortgage payment there, right? So $300,000 minus $2,500. That's now I have a balance of $297,500, right? Now times 5%. Let's see how much our interest would be. Is it going to be $1,250 still? Well, times 5%, that's $14,875. Divide that by 12 monthly payments. And that month, it would be $1,239 and change. See, so by paying down the principal, the amount that you owe, you pay less in interest. I mean, over here, it's only a couple of bucks. What is it, $21, But, or not even, $19, okay. But it's saving you money. The more money that you have to pay it down, you owe less, okay? Or it's less interest they could charge you payment. Less interest that they could charge when you have a lower balance. So a straight loan is an interest-only loan. You will never pay this loan off. These loans are meant for short terms, okay? You're not supposed to have a 30-year straight loan. You would never pay down the balance. You would never gain equity. Well, I don't want to say that, but you would never pay down the balance because you're only paying the interest that's owed on the loan. This is good for short term, for people who are fixing and flipping, or for builders, these are straight loans. They use straight loans, okay? So highlights in the second bullet point, on the first line, highlight the words interest only towards the end of that line, interest only. And then right below it, highlight straight loan. I know it says straight term loan. So what is a straight loan? Interest only loan. Okay. Now, a partially amortized loan. Well, let me see. If fully amortized means fully killed off, partially amortized means that it was only partially killed, meaning that by the time you make your last mortgage payment, there's still going to be an excess balance. So that last mortgage payment is going to end up being larger than the rest. That last payment that balloons in size, guess what they call it? A balloon payment. Does that make sense why they do?
No.
Now, why does it not fully amortize by the time you make the last mortgage payment? Well, because they made the monthly payments smaller for you, more affordable. And if they did that, well, you're going to have to pay the piper at some point, and that will be at the end of the term. That last payment will balloon in size. It'll be larger than the rest. So that last final payment is going to be larger than the rest. That's called a balloon payment. And what kind of loans have a balloon payment at the end of the term? Partially amortized ones. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so let's end of the second line under the third bullet point. We're going to highlight final payment is larger amount than the others. This is called a balloon payment, and this type of loan is called a partially amortized loan. Okay. Now, the biweekly mortgage, we're going to highlight biweekly mortgages involve half payments every 2 weeks instead of monthly. Then go down 2 lines, and at the end of the line there, highlight the extra money is applied entirely to principal. So how does that save you money? I already began talking to you, explaining you this. If you can't save up one extra payment that you can make in one shot because that money is going to burn a hole in your pocket, why don't you set your loan up to be a biweekly payment plan where basically you're making half payments every 2 weeks, the equivalent of 26 half payments per year, which equates to 13 monthly payments. There's only 12 months in a year, so that one extra payment goes entirely towards the principal. So that by doing this, you could reduce a 30-year fixed rate loan to 22 or 23 years. That's shaving off about 8 years of payments. Nice. Now, on a $300,000 loan, that's going to come out to probably over $50,000 in savings in interest. 50 large, guys, by making one extra payment per year.
So what do you
applying it all to the principal.
So what do you do? Go to your lender and ask them, can I do biweekly payments?
Yeah, you could set it up that way. Sometimes the lenders may charge you a fee like $600 to set it up that way. I would say just make it automatic, that you could make that automatic charge, or set up, excuse me, set it up yourself. So you
and I just pay it every 2 weeks.
Well, you could just make one payment a year. If you could save it up and just make one payment a year, it equates to the same thing. Actually, it works out even better. If you could save up the money and at the beginning of the year, you make that one extra payment, you would have paid it all down, that much principal in one shot. So it'll actually end up saving you more than this, because it's that less interest that they could charge you on. It's that less of a principal that they could charge you interest on throughout the term of the year. If you're making biweekly mortgages, it's slowly chipping away at that principal. Okay. Now here's a little payment chart bar that you could see on the next page, 237. The dark color part of the bar, see, this is a 30-year mortgage, and there's 30 bars here. And the the dark part of the bar is how much you're paying in interest. The light color here to tippy top, you see that little piece up there? That's how much you're paying down your principal, the amount you borrowed. So this first month's mortgage payment, or this first years of mortgage payments, that's how much goes towards paying down the principal, and that's how much of your monthly mortgage payment goes to pay down the interest. How come they don't just make that even straight across for the whole term? Half of your monthly mortgage payment goes toward the principal, half goes to the interest. Why don't they do that?
Because they want to get more than money up front.
They want their money up front. Why would they care about getting it up front? They're going to get it anyway, aren't they?
Not if you can't pay.
No, they won't, because the lower the principal is, the lower amount of interest they would get paid, because the interest goes off of the principal.
Well, yeah, yeah, but you know what? They could still work it out. That they could still work out the numbers that they still get paid the same amount. They could play with the numbers a little bit and get the same amount still.
Maybe because if you're going to foreclosure, I don't know.
Well, on average, how long do people stay in homes these days before they sell them? 5 to 7 years. So you're probably not going to be in that loan for that full 30-year term. So they want to get as much, they want to pack that interest up front, get as much out of you as possible up front. That's why. That makes sense, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So an adjustable rate mortgage, or ARM, on page 237, where it says adjustable rate mortgages, highlight adjustable rate mortgages. Shift the risk or reward of changing interest rates from the lender to the borrower. And next to the title there, where it says adjustable rate mortgages, I just want you to write ARM, like I have it here at the top, ARM, ARM. That's the abbreviation for an adjustable rate mortgage. They call it an ARM. Are these good? Are they bad, or what?
Depends, I guess.
Depends on what? No, I'm not going to put you on the spot. Yeah, I mean, they're good for certain people, bad for others. I mean, it would probably, there's different kinds of adjustable rate mortgages too. You know, how much they'll save you in interest, or how much they'll save you in monthly payments. But they do shift the risk or reward of the changing interest rates from the lender to the borrower. The good part about it is they're usually fixed. They put a fixed teaser rate in to get you into these loans to make them more attractive to you. They'll be fixed for the first year, 3 year, 5 year, or 7 years. They got 1, 3, 5, 7 year ARMs. That means that they're fixed. They're at a fixed interest rate for that first couple years, and then it becomes adjustable. All right. So they'll get you in with a low teaser rate. And it's got a super low mortgage payment on it. But the thing is, what happens at the end of that fixed term? Interest rates may go up, they may go down, depending on where the interest rates go. But if their interest rates went up, the borrower pays more. If the interest rates go down, the borrower pays less. Okay, so it shifts that risk or reward from the lender to the borrower in that respect. Now, some people may be like, oh, you don't want to get those. You never know what the payment's going to be. That's wrong. Oh, you don't want those. The payment can shoot up on you. No, it can't. Look, there's people like, oh, you don't want those. The interest rates are always going up or down. No, they're not. They get adjusted once a year on the anniversary of the loan. That's the adjustment period. See, we're going over the anatomy now of an adjustable rate mortgage. So let me see, payment plans. You know what? I'm gonna do a little thing here. I'm gonna change this title, payment plans. Let's just call this anatomy of an adjustable rate mortgage. So the anatomy of the adjustable rate mortgage is there's an adjustment period that determines if the interest rates are going to go up or down on the anniversary of the loan. Now, what determines if the interest rates go up or down? Well, they usually tie it to some sort of an index. And that index can vary from lender to lender, but it's usually the 1-year US Treasury bill. So depending if the interest rates on that go up or down would determine whether the interest rate on your loan will go up or down. They tie it to some sort of an index. Now, the margin is the difference between the cost of borrowing the money and lending it. So usually your lender is lending you someone else's money. So they're going to have to pay that person interest. And let's just say that it costs the lender 2% to borrow the money that they're going to lend to you. And they want to earn 2% on the loan. How much do they need to charge you in total interest?
4%.
4%. That's the markup, right? The margin, that's the markup, right? Now, a cap is what determines the maximum that the interest rate will go up in any single adjustment period, right? That is the cap. Here, wish I had a bottle of soda or something in front of me. I'd show you with the cap on it. All right, so here, I got this thing here instead. So let's just look at this little bottle I have here in front of me. Let's pretend this was a bottle of soda, right? If I were to shake it up, this cap is limiting how high that soda will go, right? That's the way that a cap works in any single adjustment period on a loan. Now the ceiling, if I were to take this cap off, over the life of the loan, how high was that going to go? Well, how high, if this was a bottle of soda and I took the cap off, how high could it go? It's going to hit the ceiling, and then it's going to max out, right? It's the same way that it works on an adjustable rate mortgage. The lifetime cap on the loan is called a ceiling, okay? So cap is for any single adjustment period, the maximum it could go up, and the ceiling is the maximum it could go up over the life of the loan. Make sense? Good. Now, the worst case scenario they spell out for you when you get these adjustable rate mortgages, they'll tell you what the highest possibility is that the interest rate can go up over the life of the loan and what the highest mortgage payment would be that you would ever make. So people who get an adjustable rate mortgage and say, oh, I never knew that, they never told me, that's a lie, because it's spelt out on a piece of paper, that one of those papers in that mortgage package of documents that you were signing. It says it, and it says it in ink about a font size that's about that big. Here, look about that big in relation to a piece of paper. You know, that's a pretty big font size, isn't it? Yeah. All right, so that's the anatomy of an arm. So on page 238, let's just highlight the ceiling. It's sometimes called the lifetime cap. Now, sometimes these lenders give you these teaser rates at the beginning that they're fixed for a teaser rate. Well, sometimes those teaser rates are lower than the current market rates are. So if that is the case, that means that your monthly mortgage payment is paying less than what it's costing them to lend you that money. So that means that it is negatively amortizing for a period of time. However, the lender will usually eat the loss to get you in that loan because they know that they're going to make it off of you back in the long term anyway. But there are some loans out there that do have a negative amortization to them. And when you're the one that's paying it, you never want to be in that situation because that's a bad situation. What is negative amortization? You need to know this. It's when the monthly mortgage payment isn't even enough to pay the interest that's owed. So that shortfall of interest that you did not pay that month is added to the balance and you owe more money next month. That's not good. All right. Hybrid mortgages, well, like I told you, those are adjustable rate mortgages that are fixed for a period of time and then they become adjustable. All right, straight loan is an interest only loan. Okay, we're going to go over how interest is calculated, but first, I guess we already did have negative amortization on here. Yep. Okay, so let's highlight the term negative amortization on page 238. When the monthly payment, and then highlight when the monthly payment isn't enough to cover the interest due. That's negative amortization. All right. Interest, once again, on the right side of page 230, on the bottom of the page 239, we're going to highlight a charge for the use of someone else's money is called interest. And right above that, the rent. And then turn to page 240. And on page 240, there's a numbered list here that shows you 4 steps on how to calculate interest and what your balance would be after that first month's mortgage payment. Put a highlighted box around these 4 steps. You need to know these 4 steps. And then just write alongside of it how interest is calculated. See, that's what I did. How interest is calculated. Now we're going to do some math problems on this. Well, let me just show you really quick. I mean, I got it just drawn out here this way. And the next slide actually breaks it down a little bit better here. Well, maybe not. All right, so you're putting a highlighted box around this on page 240, right? These 4 steps. And you're going to write alongside of it how interest is calculated. Now, your monthly mortgage payment includes PI, principal and interest. That's your monthly mortgage payment, principal and interest. Property taxes and insurance, that's separate. That's not part of your mortgage payment. It could be added into it, but that's a different type of loan. Your basic, when you borrow money, you got your principal, that's the amount you borrowed, and the interest, the rent you pay, okay? So the loan itself is principal and interest. So if you borrowed $100,000 at 7% interest rate, that's $7,000 in annual interest. If you divide that by 12 months, that first month's mortgage payment is that goes towards the interest is $583.33 in interest payments that first month. Now, if the lender told you that your monthly mortgage payment is $665.31, well, how much of that goes towards principal, paying down the amount you borrowed? Well, we just calculated the interest is $583.33 on that loan. Subtract $583.33 from your total monthly mortgage payment of $665.31, and only $81.97 went to pay back what you borrowed on a $100,000 loan. So how much do you owe next month? Well, you take the total amount you borrowed minus the $81.97 that you paid down, and now your balance is $99,918.03. Welcome to being in debt for the rest of your, well, for the next 30 years anyway. All right. And how could you kill this off a little bit quicker? Make an extra payment, apply it entirely towards the principal whenever you get it. That'll change this. So if you do these steps, if you do these 4 steps, if it's a 30-year loan, how many months are there in 30 years?
$70. Oh no, sorry.
360.
360, yeah.
12 times 30 is 360. So 360, and I didn't do that in my head. I just know it because I did this problem so much. Okay, I'm terrible at math, but I got a calculator and I know the formula, so I'm good. All right, so 12 times 30 years is 360. So if you do this step right here, 360 times, you would have created what we call a mortgage amortization schedule. And the banks, the lenders will do that for you. They'll create an amortization schedule with the dates next to it that shows you, you can look at the 30-year loan at any turn, any time, any month within that 30-year term, and you could see how much, what your balance should be on that loan. Okay, but I just showed you how to calculate that. So in this slide, you could see the first, this is a fully amortized loan. I know that because the last payment here is 0 down at the bottom. And there's 360 months. Look, the first payment and the last payment is the same, right? The only thing that changes is how much gets applied towards the interest and how much gets applied towards the principal. And then it shows you what the remaining balance is. See, if you do this for 360 months, that's what we call a, oops, sorry about that. That's what we call a mortgage amortization schedule. This is the first 3 months and the last 3 months in an amortization schedule. Okay, for a 30-year loan. See what flips during the first half of that loan? The majority of the payment goes towards what? The interest. Towards the end of it, it flips. The majority of that payment goes towards the principal. All right. So that's what an amortization schedule is. Now, points. If you look at the bottom of page 241, what is a point?
241.
So let me just give you the breakdown, then we'll do some highlighting. A point is prepaid interest on the loan. That's what the definition of a point is. And that interest is tax deductible by the borrower in the year that they paid it. Now, the math of the point of how to calculate it is each point is 1% of the loan amount, not the purchase price, but the loan amount. It's important to know that if you want to get the math problem right on exams, hint, hint.
So meaning not if that, so like not if the house is 100,000, actually whatever the mortgage that you took out.
Yeah. So like if you're buying a house for 100,000, but you're getting a loan for 90,000, you would do 90,000 times 1% to figure out a point. You wouldn't do it by the purchase price. You do it by the loan amount, the amount you're borrowing. Because what is a point? It's interest on the loan, not the purchase price. You don't want to pay interest on your own money that you already put down, right? You're paying the lender twice. You're paying them for interest on your own money. You don't want to do that. You want to pay them only interest on the money that you're borrowing from them. Why would you want to pay them rent on your own money that you already put down, right? So you want to subtract the money that you put down and then calculate the point, the interest based off of the loan, the amount borrowed. Make sense? So we're going to highlight on the second line, towards the end of the line, we're just going to highlight the words prepaid interest. And then just below that, each point is 1% of the new loan.
Where, Victor?
The bottom of page 341.
341?
341, the bottom of the page. On the second line. Here, let me pull it up on screen in front of you here for a second. Maybe that'll help.
But each point is 1%. That's what you said? Second line?
You see that?
Yeah, okay. Each point is 1%.
On page 341?
Yep,
Yeah.
341 there at the bottom.
241, not 341.
241. I'm sorry, 241.
Yeah,
I've been saying it right. I just said it wrong that time. 241.
you said 341
You said a couple times. That's
a couple times.
I was looking at it before, so I didn't say it wrong before. All right, so look, you see on the third line, it says prepaid interest, and then below it, each point is 1% of the new loan. And then at the beginning of the line, I have the word point highlighted. So a point is prepaid interest on the loan. Each point is 1% of the new loan. Okay. We're going to need to know how to calculate that because we've got a math problem coming up and it's going to be on exam too. So just saying. Just saying.
Can we go over it one more time?
What's the point?
Or can you give an example?
I'm going to give examples. You're going to figure them out.
Is 1% of the new loan of what you're.
That's all you need to know. How do you calculate it? It's each point is 1%. 1% of what?
Of the loan.
Of the loan, not the purchase price, the loan.
The loan.
And so what is a point? It's prepaid interest. And who could deduct it on their taxes? The borrower. Now, what if I negotiate? What if I'm a great negotiator and I negotiate for the seller to prepay the interest, the points on the borrower's loan? Who could deduct it then?
Seller.
It's the borrower's loan.
Borrower.
So at the end of the year, the borrower is going to get an interest statement that they could report it on their taxes. So if you manage to negotiate that for the borrower, for the seller to pay points on the borrower's loan too in advance, good for you. You got the seller to pay interest on the borrower's loan and the borrower gets to deduct it on their taxes. Win-win. Bravo, right? So it seems weird that a seller would do that. You know, that's, you know, they would fight you tooth and nail to reduce the price, but to pay the interest on the loan, oh, okay. Some things don't make sense, but people do it anyway. Just take a look at negotiations on how they work when we charge them the commission. They'll fight us tooth and nail to pay us less commission. But their first price reduction on their house is usually more than our entire commission. Go figure. All right. Rate lock. Usually when you get a loan, you know, rates are always fluctuating throughout the day. They're going up, they're going down, right? So when you're a borrower, you get pre-approved for a loan or pre-qualified for a loan. You're not locked in any particular rate yet because those rates are still fluctuating around. So when you finally apply, you finally find the house that you want, you apply for the loan, you'll find out what that interest rate is that day. If you put it in and you fill out the application with the lender, once the lender has your completed application in, they'll give you a complimentary rate lock. Hopefully, it'll be long enough of a period of time for you to close on that house. But if there's delays in the inspection and the attorney review and whatever, and it takes longer for you to close on purchasing that property, you may miss the rate lock. And now your rate is no longer locked in and the interest rates can go up. But the borrower will allow the lender will allow the borrower to pay a fee to lock in the rate a little bit longer. But you don't want to do that. It's going to cost them a couple $100 to do it, you know, to lock in that rate. So you see, this is why it's very important for you as the real estate agent to make sure this transaction moves along smoothly and everybody's communicating and everything's getting done in a timely manner. You're trying to save that borrower money by not missing a rate lock. the complimentary rate lock that they were given and having to buy an extended rate lock, if that's even possible. Okay. So you may want to point out that extra value that you provide for the borrower there. We're trying to keep things moving along smoothly, make sure that the attorneys are communicating with each other, make sure we get the attorney review going, make sure that this is going. Sometimes borrowers think that we're rushing them through the transaction because we just want to earn our commission. You guys need to explain to them what you're doing, why you're doing this. Okay. So listen, I'm not in any rush. I'm going to get paid. I got other deals. Yours not the only deal that I got going on right now. I'm doing this for your benefit, not mine. Because if you guys don't explain this to your buyers that you're working with, sometimes they think that you're, as the agent, you're pushing them through this transaction. Oh, my agent was so pushy. They kept pushing me through this transaction the whole time. They're like, hurry up and do this, hurry up and order that, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. You know what? If you explain to them that you're doing this, why you're doing this, you're doing it to save them money from missing a rate lock and then them having to be charged a higher interest rate or paying a fee to lock in to extend the rate lock so that they could keep that lower interest rate. Now they could at least see the value, the reason behind why you're pushing all the time. Your job as the agent is to make sure this transaction moves smoothly. You guys should be saying that over and over to them. My job as the agent is to make sure this transaction moves as smoothly as possible. I have to make sure everybody's communicating with each other. After we get inspections done, we have to address those inspection issues, get them out of the way, get the repairs done, get them out of the way. We need to hit our closing date in a timely fashion because any delay could end up costing you money. And I don't want that to happen, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. Make sense? You guys should always explain that stuff to your clients, because if you don't, they just think that you just want to rush things along to get your commission, you greedy agent. Just want the money. It's true though. It's true. Okay. I can't tell you how many times I heard buyers say, oh, my agent was so pushy. They pushed us into getting this house. They pushed us into this. They pushed us here. They pushed us there. Now, I could see pushing you into signing a contract. That's one thing I don't do. But once you sign that contract and you want to move things along, we need to move things along if you want to keep that rate.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do a math problem here. Here, I got one right here on the slide. A points prepaid interest on a loan, and it's tax deductible by the borrower in the year it's paid, no matter who paid them. Now, the math of the point, each point's equal to 1% of the new loan, not the purchase price. So here's an example of that.
Okay.
If we have a purchase price of $325,000 and the buyer has to put down 20% and pay 2 points. What happened? It disappeared. Because I want you to do it.
Yeah, because I had 65.
What happened? What happened? Did you write it down already? No? Okay. Well, here, let me do this. If you got the loan, I'm sorry, if you got the purchase price,
I got up to the 25% down.
If you got the purchase price of, well, let me see, what is it? $325,000. Whoa, what the hell just happened right there? That was neat. How did that happen? Yeah, hello. Okay, we have a purchase price of $325,000.
Mm-hmm.
And the buyer has to put down payment. Let's see. The down payment is 20%.
Mm-hmm.
They have to pay 2 points. And there's $5,000 in closing costs. How much money does the buyer need to close on this property? How much money does the buyer need to purchase this house, to close on it?
The down payment will be 65,000.
Yes.
Well, I want to know how much money that they need to close on it. If you get it, I want you to message me in the chat window. Make sure you're only messaging me, not the whole class.
Now, Victor, I have a quick question though with this.
Okay.
So since it says 2 points, right? Now,
What's the point?
Am I doing like 1 point off of the balance from the down payment and the purchase price, then taking that and just doubling it? Or am I doing 1 point and then once I reduce it?
Well, 1 point is what? 1%.
Right.
2 points is 2%.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Okay. One person messaged me, they got it right. Are you guys working this out?
Yes.
Slowly but surely.
Okay, just want to make sure you guys are working it out. I mean, what's the first step that you're doing?
Times the 20% to find the down payment.
There you go, correct. And then what's the next step?
Subtract the down payment from the purchase price.
Why?
To find the loan amount.
To find the loan amount.
Find the loan amount. Why?
Because you need to do the 2 points off the loan amount. Yes?
So not off the purchase price, but off the loan amount.
The loan amount, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I lost my place.
Samantha, yes. Correct. Linda, correct.
So what are we supposed to send you?
How much money you need to close on this property, to buy this property? How much money the borrower needs, the buyer needs to close, to purchase this property? Sarah, yes. Odalis, yes. All right, let's work it out, and I'm going to show you step by step. So even, oh, let me see, I got another chat window here. Somebody, nope. Nope. All right, let me show you guys step by step how this is, okay? So, I already have this worked out on the slide, but let's just work it out. Let me pull out the calculator, and I'm gonna work this out with you guys on the slideshow here. Just pull out my calculator. So, it's $325,000, okay? Times the 20%. What is that, 65,000 it came out to?
Yep.
So then you take that's how much, this is the 20%.
Yep.
Okay. And then you take the $325,000 minus that 20% down payment of $65,000 to find out what your loan amount is. And what is that, 260?
Mm-hmm.
It's $260,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 2 points that you got to pay. So times 2%, that's 2 points, right? So $260,000 times 2%, that's $5,200.
Yep.
At $5,200, this is your 2 points, 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have your $65,000, your $5,200, that's your 2 points,
Mm-hmm.
and $5,000 in closing costs. Add them up.
Oh, I forgot to add the, oh, okay.
5,200 plus 5,000 plus 65,000.
I forgot to add the 65,000.
This person needed $75,200 to purchase this property. That's a lot of do-re-mi, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I want you guys to see something by comparison really quick. I want you guys to do the same thing for a $325,000 property, the same thing. Tell me how much money you would need to purchase if it was an FHA loan. How much down payment's required for an FHA loan?
3%.
No.
3.5.
3.5%.
3.5.
Same scenario, but 3.5%.
That's it.
Okay.
I want you to see how these government programs or these subsidized programs make it a lot more affordable to get into housing, to become a homeowner.
Is the rest of the problem the same? So we're adding the 2 points.
Well, no, you're gonna have to do that problem again, because it's now $325,000. You're gonna have to do 2 points and 5,000 closing costs. So $325,000 minus the 11,375. All right, so now, as you can see, it's 11,375 is 3.5%. A lot less than 65,000, right? That you need. And then the points are going to be a little bit more, though. It's going to be 62, 72, and 50 cents for the points. And then you still got 5,000 in closing costs. So you add these three up.
Victor, what determines how many points?
Well, the lender just told you 2 points. Okay. Basically, points are usually when you're including the taxes and insurance in there, but it could be because the points, the lender could be charging you points, maybe because your debt to income ratio is off a little bit, and you wouldn't qualify for the loan unless you paid them. okay? Or maybe it's just bullshit fees the lender's charging you as costs to borrow the money. I'm not sure. So it depends on, you'd have to take a look at the numbers. So anyway, at the end of the day, to purchase the same property, it's going to cost you $22,000. You're going to need $22,645.50. We had one person that was close, but no cigar. All right, 22,645.
How much was it again?
What's that?
Can you repeat that again?
I said
Can
we
you
had.
repeat that again?
Oh, I said we had one person that was close, but no cigar.
No, the price, the total that they have to bring to the closing.
Oh, you see right here on this, you see in the whiteboard, right? You guys still seeing the whiteboard?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Right here.
My thing was blocking.
22,645.50. See on the right side, I did the FHA. The left side, I did the problem as it was written. $75,000 versus $22,000. A lot more affordable, right?
Yes.
I would say. Okay. So we go back to the slideshow there. It had this example down here broken down for you. So if you need to get back in there and review it, there you go. One more problem. It's the same exact problem written a different way. Except I'm not telling you how much money you need to put down. You need to figure that out. You guys see how it's written here? The purchase price is $325 with an LTV of 80%. If the LTV is 80%, what does that mean?
Down payment is
20% down payment.
That means that the lender will loan you 80% of the appraised value. Therefore, the down payment requirement is 20%. So it's the same exact problem, just written in a different way. You see how they could word it differently, but say the same thing? If you didn't know what an LTV was, you wouldn't know that. But because I'm such an excellent instructor, you guys all got it, right?
Yeah.
Why are you laughing? All right. All right. So let's see. Okay, so mortgage, let me see, here's some of the mortgage options here. On page 242, at the top of the page, I want you to, on the second line or second sentence, I want you to highlight the buyer's points are interest payments, income tax deductible in the year they are paid.
Okay.
And then either right above it or go down the next line below it. It says the IRS allows the buyer to deduct them. Even if the seller pays those points. All right, so they call it risk-based lending for a reason. You know, you see the interest that they advertise, how much you could get a loan for, what the interest rate is. You're probably not going to get it at that rate.
Is that false advertising?
No. It's just if you read all the fine print, you would see you need to have like a perfect credit score. Your debt to income ratio needs to be a certain amount. It requires you to put down like 25%, you know, to get that interest rate. And there's a lot of factors that play into it. So most people probably are not going to get it at that advertised rate. But they are real rates that you could get if all the stars were in alignment for you. Okay. So technically not false advertising if you meet all the qualifications. That's why they usually also say to those who qualify, right? So it's called risk-based lending for a reason. The best interest rates you can get is tied to the amount of risk to the lender. So factors that factor into your risk are your credit score, your Fair Isaacs credit score rating, the FICO score, the DTI, that's your debt to income ratio, okay? Doesn't matter how much money you make. How much money do you make and how much debt do you have? Now let's look at the numbers, right? You could have somebody who makes $1 million a year that can't afford to buy squat because they spend it like it's going out of style, right? So what is your debt in relation to your income? When people tell me, oh, I'm buying all cash, money's not an issue. I don't care who you are, money's an issue. Unless you got a printing press in your back room, money's an issue to everybody. Millionaires, money's an issue too. They just got bills that are higher, right? Don't get intimidated by people who come in there and they start trying to talk game to you. Like, oh man, money ain't an issue. Don't worry about it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. Money's always an issue. Mm-hmm. If money ain't an issue, why don't you give me a grand or two? Ask for it straight up, right? Make a point. That's what I'm saying. So the value and condition of the property and what the local market's doing, you know, down payment that the borrower's putting down. Oh, I put that there. Down payment, credit score, debt to income ratio, value and condition of the property, and the local market changing. Where's the market headed? All these conditions factor into the risk of the lender. Yeah. Nope. Okay. PITI is your full monthly expense for housing, your total monthly expense, the loan plus your taxes and insurance, right? So PITI stands for principal, interest, taxes. They're talking about the property taxes and insurance. Okay. So what does PITI stand for? You must know this, you must know this, you must know this. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. That's what PITI stands for. Got it? So let's highlight that. That's under taxes and insurance reserves. You see that down on the page?
Yep.
The last line on the first paragraph. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance reserves. PITI. Now, pity the fool that got to pay them. Now, if you have all these expenses wrapped up into your monthly mortgage payment, it's referred to as a budget loan. Because now you could budget your total expenses for housing monthly, right? So in the second paragraph, next to last line, highlight a PITI loan is sometimes referred to as a budget loan. Got that? Mm-hmm. All right. Now, RESPA law limits the amount of reserves that a lender can charge a borrower in advance for the coming year's property taxes and insurance bills. Now, PITI stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and that's your total monthly expense for housing, unless you're buying a condo. If you're buying a condo, you'd also have to factor in your monthly HOA fee too. Okay. Now, I want to back up just a moment here because we didn't highlight something on this page called a rate lock. I think we discussed it before though, somewhere. Rate lock, yeah, it was on this page. You see in at the upper part of the page, rate lock.
Yes.
Rate lock.
Yep, let me see. Lenders may offer a borrower the opportunity to lock in a quoted rate. Highlight that. Then on that same line, highlight the lender agrees to hold the quoted rate for a certain period of time. They lock it in. Bless you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
No need to apologize. We all sneeze. And then underneath the entire paragraph, I want you to write, for an additional fee, the rate lock can be extended. That's just for your own edification. For an additional fee, the rate lock can be extended.
You said it can be extended?
Yep. Okay, so for an additional fee can be extended. Okay. Reserves. I have this down here. Let me see. I don't think I have it on this page, the term reserves.
No.
Probably not going to be mentioned till later in the book, but either way.
Victor, quick question.
Yes.
Wait, did you go over that last bullet point under principal interest tax insurance, the RESPA, R-E-S-P-A law?
Yeah, I said RESPA limits the amount of reserves that the lender may charge to the borrower. Now, what are reserves? It's an amount of money built up for the coming year's future expenses towards the property taxes and insurance payments. Usually the lender is going to want that first year's taxes and insurance paid, okay? Or at least they want you to pay into a fund in advance, a couple months, building up towards that coming year's payments. So the RESPA law, that's the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, limits the amount of reserves that a lender can charge a borrower in advance to build up that fund for the coming year's expenses. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, you okay?
Yes, I understand it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Here's the mortgage factor chart that we've seen on the back page. We're going to back up now one page to 241. Now, above this chart, I want you to write mortgage factor chart, just like I have written here on the slide, mortgage factor chart, because that's what we call this chart. This is called a mortgage factor chart. So I want you to write that title above this chart, mortgage factor chart.
On 241?
On page 241, correct. Not 341, 241.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so this mortgage factor chart, so the mortgage factor chart here, I also have the, above that chart is how to use this chart with the directions. And I have the directions right here in this slide as well, as you could see. And basically the way you read the chart is like this. you see there's the column here that has the rate on it on the far left at the top here. This is the interest rate that the lender could be charging the borrower.
Mhm.
And then there's the term. How many years is the loan going to be? 10, 15, 20, 30, 25, 30-year loan, okay? These are the common ones, okay?
Mhm.
So if you're borrowing, and then they've got these numbers in between. So this is how to read this chart. Can you guys see my mouse pointer?
Yes.
Okay, so let's just say that you're getting this a loan for 4.5% interest rate for 30 years. So what you do is you take your index finger on one of your hands and then you run it down the chart here until you get to 4.5%. And it's a 30-year loan. So now you run it across to the 30-year column. You see that? And you get to 5.07. See that? 30 years, 5.07.
Mhm.
See? Or you could run one finger down and one finger across, and where they meet, okay, it should still get to 5.07. What's the factor on a 5% loan on 20 years?
$6.6.
Okay, so 6.60, correct. And what's the factor on a 6% loan at 30 years?
6.
Is everybody getting this? Does everybody know how to read this chart?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It's not hard to do, is it?
No.
Yeah, you run your finger down and across. Now, what are these numbers over here that we're getting to? So 5% at 30 years is 5.37, right? So what is that 5.37? For every $1,000 that you borrow, your monthly mortgage payment is $5.37. This is not a percentage. This is dollars. So for every $1,000 you borrow at a 5% interest on a 30-year loan, your monthly mortgage payment is $5.37 in a fully amortized 30-year loan. So built into this $5.37 is your principal and interest payment. Got it?
Okay.
So using that factor chart right here, which is on page 241, we're going to do a math problem.
I hate math.
I know, but it's not hard when you got a calculator in front of you and you know the formulas. So hold on one sec. Let me just erase what I got here on the whiteboard right now. And let me see if I already have this problem written out for us. I think I do. I have some problems. Where did it go? Sorry, trying to get the whiteboard to work with me. All right. If you have a $300,000, all right. What is the mortgage factor on a 5% loan at 30 years?
5.37.
5.37 is the factor, right?
Right.
So let me just write down a problem here for you. So we have the loan. If we have a loan amount of $300,000, that's the loan amount, not the purchase price, at a 5% interest at 30 years. So then the factor, you guys all just figured that one out. So I'm going to write down what the factor is 5.37.
You want us to say it or?
So I got it written right here. You guys see this?
Yep.
All right. $300,000 loan, 5%, 30 years, factor is 5.37.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell me how much of the first month's mortgage payment here goes towards paying down, how much of it goes towards the principal? And I want you to tell me how much of your first monthly mortgage payment is principal and interest. Go. You guys know how to do this because you have the 4 steps on page 240 as well.
Victor, could you say the last part again? Because it was breaking up on my end. I got the first part.
Okay. So if you have, you guys, can you see the slide in front of you or the whiteboard?
Yes.
Okay. So if you have a $300,000 loan at a 5% interest rate at 30 years, and the factor is 5.37. So you don't even have to look at the factor chart because we already did. It's 5.37. That's $5.37 for every $1,000 borrowed. I want you to tell me how much of that first month's mortgage payment goes towards, well, I want you to tell me what the first month's mortgage payment is. That's your principal and interest. Okay. And then how much of that first month's mortgage payment goes towards paying down the principal?
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And you guys do have everything you need in order to figure that out. On screen, and those 4 steps on page 240 is the how-to. And above the mortgage factor chart, it tells you how to do this as well. Yes, Taylor, you're right on the PI. Anybody else get the PI yet? The monthly mortgage payment.
And then you said you want to know the principal on the second one?
Yep. First you got to figure out how much the monthly mortgage payment is.
Yep.
I'll start working that part on the board as well in case anybody was confused about this at all. So the way you figure out the monthly mortgage payment is you take the loan amount and you have the factor. But the factor is what? This is $5.37, right?
Yeah.
What does that $5.37 symbolize?
Principal and interest.
It's your monthly mortgage payment for every $1,000 you borrow. So how many thousands are there in 300,000?
300.
300. So 300 times $5.37.
Yep.
300 times $5.37. That's $1,611. $1,611.
Right.
That is your PI.
Yeah.
That's your first part. We got it already. 1,611. Now here, I'm going to give you the formula here. To figure out the answer to this one, the principal, we already have the principal and interest here. If we could figure out how much of that goes towards interest, we could subtract that and we're left with the principal. How do we calculate interest? I must have said it like 10 times already. Interest is calculated on an annual basis. by the loan amount. Interest rate times the loan amount. And what's the interest rate? It's right here in the problem itself. 5%. So times 0.05, which is 5%.
That's 15,000.
That's 15,000. But what is 15,000? That's your annual interest. We need to figure out the monthly. So what do we do?
Divide by the months.
Divided by 12. And that's 1250. 1250 in monthly interest. So now we just take the 1250, subtract it from the 1611. And that's how we do it, boys and girls.
Give us another problem.
Sure.
No.
I know how much you guys love it. All right. Hold on. Let me see if I already have one here on this same slide. You know what? I'm going to take the same problem. I'm going to add another factor to it. Ooh. I'm going to take the same problem. All right. So if this I want you to tell me what the pity payment would be if the taxes are $9,000 on this property and the insurance is $800. I want to know what the pity payment would be. That's your total monthly payment. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
I'll wait.
And here's the formula. You ready? I'm going to give you the formula here. PI plus TI equals PITI.
Can you repeat that one more time? PI plus TI?
Yep, you see it right here on the screen? PI
Oh, yeah, sorry.
plus TI is PITI. That's the formula. Do we already have the PI?
Yeah.
Yes.
1611. So what's the TI? Well, we got our taxes and insurance right here. Just add them up, right? If you add these up, what does it come out to?
11,411.
Well, hold on. No. We got $9,000 in taxes plus $800.
9,800.
That's 9,800. But that is annual TI. So what do we got to do?
Divided by 12.
Divided by 12.
24, 27.
I don't know.
16.
9,800.
That's 816.
Divided by 12 is 816, 66.
3,161.
I'll just say 816. Let's just leave it at that. All right. So we can just put 816 here.
Yeah. 24, 27. Here's your PITI.
Yep. 24, 27.
Yep.
Still scared of math?
Was the insurance, the 800, was that yearly?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Insurance is that at 800, that's an annual charge. If they're charging you that monthly, run. Yeah, that would be a lot of insurance.
It's not that I don't like math. I don't like word problems. It's the word problems that I don't like. And unfortunately, that's what's on the test.
But were these ones hard?
So Victor, that PITI, that's monthly?
That's your monthly mortgage payment. What is PITI? Pity.
Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
And that's your total monthly expense for housing, right?
Yep.
So where do we got that? Pity. Includes property taxes and insurance in the monthly bill. So principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. It goes to that's your total monthly expense for housing. So pity payment is your total monthly expense for housing. Let's see. Let's see if I got another one here for you, because I know you love it. Here you go. You guys see it?
Yes.
Yes.
This is a brand new example, right?
There's a new problem altogether.
Okay.
400,000 loan, 30 years, 5% interest rate. So we still got the same factor. I'm giving you the factor here. It's 5.37. So how much, what is the PI, the monthly mortgage payment, and how much of it goes towards principal? I'm going to stop the share just for 1 second so I can take a look at the answer. I know somebody's going to be asking me. Okay, Dallas, you got them both. Keto, you wrote down what you're getting mixed. You got a right number.
I did backwards.
What is that?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry about that, Vic.
Okay, that's the PI. Yeah.
Yes, I got you.
Okay.
I got
And Antasia, you got that right for the PI. How much for the P now? No.
My P is wrong.
Yep. Linda, your PI is right. Nope, on the PI. Keto, you had it right the first time for the PI. You changed the PI there. But then you got the P right.
Oh, I see what I did. I got you. All right.
I know what you guys are doing right off the bat. As you're figuring out the math problem, I want you to write next to each math figure what that number is, because you're getting lost in your own math.
Got it.
Right? Isn't that what you're doing? You're getting lost in the math, right?
Victor, is my P right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I just need another minute. I did it wrong.
Okay. I have it here on the screen. You guys can see the screen. I am going to slowly move it up. I gotta minimize this a little bit.
You told
What? All right. So to figure out the PI, you take the number of thousands. So it's 400 and 400,000 times the factor of 5.37 gives you a PI of 2148.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody get that?
Yep.
Well, some people.
Yes.
But okay, so we got that. So next step is calculating interests. So in order to calculate the interest, we take the total loan amounts, 400,000, times the 5% gives you the annual interest. You see how I'm writing this, guys, next to it? So I don't get lost in what these numbers are. And then I divide it by 12 months to get the number of, what the monthly interest is. The monthly I is 1666. So now I take the PI, subtract the interest of 1666 from it, and I'm left with the P, the principal, of 482. So those were your two answers. For the PI is 2148, and for the principal, it was 482.
Can you just leave that up for 1 sec? Sorry.
Yep. Let me make this a little bit smaller so it all fits on the screen here. You can see that. Okay, so if you want to be my guest. All right. Here's another math problem for you guys. One more, and then we can move on, right? You see down here, $450,000 is the purchase price with a 90% LTV at a 5% interest rate for 30 years. If the taxes are $10,500 and the insurance is $900 a year, I want you to tell me how much is the PI, how much goes towards the principal, and what is the pity? For this problem down here in the bottom right.
You said the insurance is 900?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So purchase price is $450,000 with an LTV of 90%. 30-year loan at a 5% interest rate. Taxes are $10,500 and the annual insurance is $900. What is the monthly mortgage payment? How much of that first month's payment goes towards the principal? And what is the pity? You could post in the chat window if you get it, but I'm not going to be able to answer you just yet until I expose the answers. Okay. So figure out your PI, your P, and your pity, and send them all to me at once, if you could. Fantasia, I think you got to look at that P that you sent me there. How much went towards the principal there?
Is that the P?
Yeah. Did you see what you typed?
Oh, yes. Hold on.
Now, when you send it to me, right next to the number, what it is it the P, the PI, or the pity that you're sending it? All right, now I looked at the answers. I had to hide it from the screen there for a moment there. And let me just go over everybody's answers that submitted stuff and I'll tell you yay or nay. Yay or nay. All right, instead of sending this individually to everybody, nope, you're all wrong. How about that? All right, let's work this. Let me expose it to you on the board because everybody is off on it. Here's the answers, and here's how we came out to it. Okay, because everybody was wrong on this. If the purchase price is $450,000, what is the loan amount? Well, if the LTV is 90%, 450 times 90 percent would give you a $405,000 loan. And if the monthly principal and interest payment is figured off of the loan amount, not the purchase price, so 405 times 5.37, the factor, would give you a PI of 2174.85. Is that what a lot of you screwed up on, the LTV3 off?
Yeah, I know. I forgot to compute it. I just totally ignored that number.
Yeah, you can't do that. All right. And then, so if our taxes and insurance, we could just add those up, 10.5 and the 900 over here, that gives us 11.4 divided by 12. That gives us a monthly tax and insurance of $950. Add the PI to that TI, and you get your monthly mortgage payment of the pity $2124.85. I'm sorry, $3124.85. Now, how much did that first month's mortgage payment go towards the principal? Well, if we take our PI, $2174.85, well, we need to figure out what the interest is. And interest is calculated annually, but once again, not off the purchase price, off the loan amount. So if the loan amount is $405,000 times 5% interest rate, that gives you annual interest of $20,250. Divided by the number of payments is 12 payments. That gives you the monthly interest payment of $1,687.50 for that first month. So you subtract that from the total PI and you're left with the P of $487.35. See the formulas?
Yes.
I got the formulas for all three of these figured out here for you. This is for calculating the interests. This is the formula for calculating the interest. Here's the formula for calculating how much goes towards the principal. And here's the formula for calculating pity. Take your PI, add your TI, and you shake it all about, and you get your PI-TI. If you got the PI and you want to figure out the P, well, you subtract the I and you're left with the P. But how do you figure out the I, the interest? Annually. Annually divided by 12 will give you monthly. Remember the formulas. Don't get lost in the numbers. As you write the numbers, I want you to write next to each number what that number is. You see how I have written next to everything here what that number is? Do that so you don't get lost in your figures, your calculations. Okay? You want to do some more math?
Yeah.
yeah. Let's keep going.
No, we're done with math for now.
Are you sure?
I'm just messing with you guys. All right. Now, I taught you the formulas. Guys, I just want you to, I can't stress enough. You guys just need to know the formulas. Okay. And those are, here's how to calculate your monthly principal payment. How to calculate the monthly payment. Here's the formula. Loan amount per $1,000 borrowed times the mortgage factor equals the PI. That's the principal and interest. And you use the chart, the factor chart on 241. How do you calculate monthly interest? Loan amount times the interest rate is annual interest. Annual interest divided by 12 months is the monthly interest. And then how do we calculate monthly principal paid? Subtract monthly interest from the monthly mortgage payment. The PI minus the I equals the P. Okay. Should I change slides now?
Please.
Like this one better?
No.
It's more of the same. All right. So here we go. Here's a question that you do get on state exam on how to compare two loans. I know you get this on state exam. So for this problem, you must use the mortgage factor chart to page 241. The state exam will provide this factor chart either pinned to the wall or under the keyboard taped to the desk, or if you're taking the exam online. I asked them specifically about this and they said there's a pop-up for it, the factor chart, okay? So because I told them there's gonna be a math problem, I know they got a math problem. I'm like, where's the factor chart? If you're doing it online, they said that there's one there, okay? So the formula can be found on the inside cover of the book too. If we go to the front of the book, the inside cover of the front of the book gives you the formula on how to figure this one out. You guys open up the front cover of the book. Hello?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. On the inside front cover of the book then,
Oh yeah, I see.
it's on the right-hand side, a little bit further than halfway down. It says to calculate total interest paid over the life of the loan. You see that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that and the 4 lines beneath it is the formula. If you want to highlight it, you could highlight it there. But anyway, here, I got it on the next slide as well. I put it on the next slide in English. Okay. So here's the question that they give you on state exam. This is just like they worded on state exam, guys. You ready for this? How much would you save on the interest over the life of a loan on a 25-year mortgage versus a 30-year if the loan amount is $300,000 and the interest rate is 5%?
Mm-hmm.
What you guys need to do now is pull out your scrap paper, and you're going to need to figure out separately for each loan all the figures. What is the mortgage factor on a 25-year loan at 5% interest? And what is the mortgage factor for a 30-year loan at a 5% interest?
Mm-hmm.
You guys have to figure that out separately. So then what is the monthly mortgage payment on the PI on a 25-year loan? And what is the monthly PI payment on a 30-year loan? Here, let's go to the next slide. I already figured it out. I got them side by side here for you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the breakdown on how you would do this. So the factor for the 25-year loan at a 5% interest rate is 5.85, and 30-year at 5% is 5.37.
Mm-hmm.
You take the total payments over the life of the loan. How many payments in a 25-year loan? Well, 12 months in a year, 12 months times 25 is 300, and 360 in a 30-year loan. That's the key for solving this problem. The rest you guys already did a couple math problems of, so it should be easy. You take the number of thousands borrowed times the factor will give you the monthly mortgage payment. That's the principal and interest, right? Now you take that monthly mortgage payment of principal and interest and times it by the number of months over the life of the loan to tell you how much you would have paid back if you pay off that loan in 25 years, how much you would have paid back if you paid it in 30 years. Oh my God, do I want to be in the banking industry, huh? God, I want to be a lender. Look how much money they make on a $300,000 loan. Well, how much money are they making? Well, here's a shortcut. You could just take You could take the 579, 960, subtract the amount borrowed, the principal, and that's the interest, the rent. That's how much they've made. They made $279,960 on a 30-year loan. And they made, if you pay it off in 25 years, they make $226,500. Now subtract this from this, and you're left with the savings, because that's what the question was anyway, wasn't it? $53,460. Now you could have came up with that same answer without figuring out the interest, just by taking the total PI on this loan and subtracting it from the PI on this loan. And that'll still give you the difference. That's a shortcut, but you wouldn't have known what the total interest paid on them was. I just want to walk you through every step here because, wow, right? If you borrow $300,000 at 5% interest, which isn't a big interest rate.
Yes, it is, according to this.
Well, you know what? I got started in real estate in 2004. Yeah, early 2004, I think it was. In January, December, January, somewhere around there. People would have killed each other for a 6% interest rate on a loan. People would kill for a 6% interest rate. I mean, right now, interest rates, you guys never seen them this low before in your life, and you probably never will again. It's only because, you know, we had those mortgage meltdowns and all those crashes and the recoveries. For years now, we've been artificially holding those interest rates down, close to zero. Well, the federal applicable rate is at close to zero. Okay, it started creeping up as our economy started improving, but then COVID hit, and we're still being kept down now. Okay, but I tell you what, when the economy starts improving, once they start reopening stores again and allowing people to go back to work, the economy is going to launch, unless they do a lot of massive changes to screw things up. Our economy was headed this year before COVID. It was headed to launch. Our job numbers were improving. Everything was improving. I mean, some of that stuff is getting hit negatively now, but it's still going to improve a bit because it was set to launch so high. But if the economy starts improving and they reopen stuff, I guarantee you these interest rates are not going to stay as low. Right now we're in the fours, the threes even. You could get even a loan now. You ain't going to get that once the economy starts improving. You'll never see that again in your lifetime, I don't think. I hope. I mean, I like the low interest rates, but it's usually a sign that something's really screwed up. Okay? Wow. Borrowing money, that rent is high when you look at the end figure over 30 years, right?
Yep.
But people never look at that. They look at how much is it going to cost me monthly, right? I want to know the immediate right now. I don't care. I don't want to plan for the future. I want to know what it is now. How much it costs me now, right? All right. Anyway, that's how you figure out that problem. I got it step by step. It's in this slideshow. You're going to need this because you will get this problem on state exam. Guaranteed. You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. We already did these problems calculating. These are the same problems. These are just more practice problems of the same problem that I already went over with you. So now let's get past it. So let's go to page 243. I'm sorry, the bottom of page 242. Bottom of page 242. We got the Your Home Loan Toolkit. Okay. You should go over this with your with the buyers. It's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB. they created this guide. Well, there was always a guide like this that was created by HUD. They just renamed it and changed some stuff around in it, okay? But it's called now the toolkit. And lenders are required to give this Your Home Loan Toolkit to borrowers within 3 days of their completed loan application. It helps them on how to shop for loans, how to compare loans, and gives them some guidance in that way, in that regard. And you see down here at the bottom, I found a guide that the New Jersey Real Estate Commission put together for home buyers as well, about the entire home buyers process. So these are two cool resources that I'm put together here for you guys that you can put as content on your websites. All right. And you should go over this stuff with buyers anyway. And as a new agent, now you got a little guide that better help you explain that stuff. Okay. I always went over this stuff with the buyers that I worked with anyhow. But I never had this guide. The New Jersey Real Estate Commission only came out with this recently. And the toolkit, I went over all this stuff with buyers anyway. That's in it. But I never even looked at this guide, to be quite frankly. But I know what's inside of it. All right, so the step-by-step guide. Lenders are required to provide within 3 business days of their completed loan application, or aliens. What is aliens? It's an acronym to know when the loan application is complete. Yes, that's a real thing. Now, nobody's actually required to explain it to the consumer, although they suggest that we as the real estate agent do. So the lender is required to give this when?
3 days.
Within 3 days of what? Aliens.
Application.
That's the completed loan application, aliens. What is aliens? Well, if we go to page, let's see, page 262. On page 262, it explains what aliens means. There's a little chart there. It says intent to proceed on the top of page 282 or 262. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Highlight the first letter straight down in that list. It spells aliens, doesn't it?
Yes.
So when the borrower has provided the address of the property that's to be purchased, the loan amount requested, their incomes of all the borrowers, the estimated value of the property to be purchased, the names of all the borrowers and their social security numbers, then that means that aliens have landed. And now they start counting of time that the lender is required to give within 3 days the Your Home Loan Toolkit to the borrower, which explains these things that you see on the slide in front of you. How to determine affordability, how credit scores affect their loan, how to choose the best mortgage and down payment, and understanding the trade-off between points and interest rates. It talks about shopping for several lenders, even though lenders will tell you, don't shop for loans because it's going to screw up your credit score and then you're going to not be able to get it at the right interest rate. Listen, that's bullshit. Mm-hmm. If your lender tells you don't go shopping around for loans because it's going to screw up your credit score because they look at your credit score, then your credit score must be screwed up, because it will affect your credit score by a point or two if you're shopping around. But if a point or two is going to make or break the factor of whether you qualify for a loan, you ain't ready to get a house yet, my friends. You should probably get your financial house in order before you start working on buying one, right? And it goes over these documents, which we didn't go over yet, called the loan estimate, the LE, and the closing disclosure, the CD. Now, I have some page numbers here. We're going to go to all these pages and do some highlighting, and then I'm going to explain stuff that are just on the slides, because otherwise this stuff is all over the book. Okay, so we'll start off on page. Okay, well, on page 262, we have the loan estimate, a little explanation of it here. The loan estimate is when the borrower applies for a loan. The LE, which is short for loan estimate, is an estimate of what the loan costs are going to be for the borrower. It's only an estimate. Now, the closing disclosure, or the CD, those are the actual closing costs, and that is given to the borrower 3 days before closing. So the borrower should compare the figures on the loan estimate to their actual figures on the closing disclosure at the closing table, or before that when they're given it, right? Now, there are certain circumstances where the loan estimate has to be reissued if there are certain changes in the borrower's situation. Now, here's some advice that I always give to buyers, and I suggest you guys write this down or just snap a damn picture of it, because I can't tell you how important it is to tell buyers when shopping for a home, don't go changing your job, especially to a different career. Don't go making any large purchases, buying or leasing cars or buying furniture for that new house, or charging stuff on credit cards or putting it on layaway even. That could affect how much you could afford to borrow. Don't think the lender can't see it on your credit score, on your credit report. So try not to change your credit availability either, canceling cards, getting new ones. Tell them not to make any changes in their finances at all right now, okay? Because look, the lender will check the borrower's credit score again at the moment of closing. At the moment of closing. And if they see that there's any major changes there, they can say, don't release the funds, you're not authorized to close. I've had it happen. That sucks, doesn't it? Buyers told at the closing table, you can't close. Your debt to income ratio changed. You can't afford to buy the house no more. Now, I had this happen to a client. The lender told me a couple of days before closing, hey, the buyer doesn't qualify for the loan anymore. I'm like, what do you mean they don't qualify? Well, they ran the credit again, and they just bought a car. And I told them not to buy a car. And when I called them up, I was like, didn't I tell you guys not to go purchasing any cars or anything? They're like, how do you know? I'm like, well, because the lender ran your credit again. And they seen that you bought a car. You don't qualify for the loan no more because you got this huge additional debt. I was like, unless you could pay off that car right now, I told you guys not to go buying it. They're like, well, what did you want us to do? The transmission went on my car. I don't know, Uber around, do something until, get a rental, do something until closing. I told them not to do this until closing. So the only way that they would able to go through with this purchase still is if they got some money to pay off this loan. And you can't borrow it because that's still another loan, isn't it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just go to your parents and say, hey, can you lend me some money so I can pay off this car? Because it's still a loan and it factors into your debt to income ratio. If you did go to your parents or relatives and ask them to lend you the money to pay off that car, the bank's not stupid. The bank is going to want a certified letter, a notarized letter, I'm sorry, where the people who gave you the money are certifying that it is a gift and not a loan, and it does not need to be paid back. If you were loaning that to your family members, and then they asked you to sign a letter like that, and it was really a loan, would you?
Nope.
No.
So what do you think that's going to do to your real estate transaction here? Probably not good, right? All right, so here's certain situations that would trigger the reissuance of a new loan estimate. I want you to write next to loan estimate LE, next to the title. I want you to highlight the title, loan estimate LE on page 262. And I want you to write next to it, replaces the GFE. Replaces the GFE, the good faith estimate. Like I have on this slide right here in front of you. The loan estimate replaces the GFE, the good faith estimate. Once again, it's an estimate of the loan costs, which must be given to the consumer within 3 business days of their completed loan application, which is within aliens, right? And there must be at least 7 days between the closing and the time that the last LE was issued. So under certain circumstances, a new LE must be issued if certain changes are made. So here are the things at the bottom of page 262 that would trigger the issuance of a new LE. Just highlight the title. You don't got to study all these things, but just highlight the title here. These are changes that would trigger a new loan estimate. The consumer requests a change, changing the loan program or the amount of the down payment, for example. Appraisal came in higher or lower than expected, because no, that never happens. Changed circumstances that affected the applicant's eligibility, like the applicants took out a new loan or missed a payment or their credit score changed. The lender could not document the applicant's overtime, bonuses, or other income. A lot of times that happens for people who work on tips, bartenders, waitresses, strippers, self-employed people, you know, that becomes an issue. Costs changed for the services that the borrower cannot shop for. Interest rate changed because the consumer did not opt for a rate lock or the rate lock expired. Could a different interest rate affect how much you could borrow? Could a different interest rate affect your monthly mortgage payment?
Yes.
Yes, we just did like a million math problems, guys. Come on.
Yes.
Right? Prepayment penalty was added. In New Jersey, you got to know no prepayment penalties are allowed, okay? Loan product was changed, or on an adjustable rate mortgage, the interest rate changed more than beyond the allowable tolerances, which would be 1/8% on a fixed rate loan or 1/4% on adjustable rate loans. All right, go to page 3. Oh wait, go to page 267. These are changes that would not trigger delays. Unexpected discoveries during the final walkthrough, or final adjustments of prorations for the taxes. Maybe the seller paid taxes in advance, but they're going to be moving out of the house before the end of the quarter. So the sellers are going to be getting some money back, and or maybe the seller didn't pay the taxes and the buyer has to pay them out. So these are some things that could affect that, those final things, but they would not trigger the reissuance of a new loan estimate. Now, what is a business day?
Monday, Friday? Anything but a holiday? And Monday through Friday?
Well, I'm going to give you an explanation. There's 2 definitions. If we see here, it says business day. One definition of a business day is any day that the lender's open for business. And the other definition is any calendar day except for Sundays and federal legal holidays. Thus, depending on the lender, the creditor, Saturdays might or might not be considered. So there you go, clear as mud. All right. So it really it depends on the lender, on when the lender's open for business, which definition the lender uses. All right. Now, so these timelines depends. Now, so next to loan estimate, what are we going to write there again? Replaces the GFE, good faith estimate. And next to closing disclosure, well, you're going to write CD above it, and above loan estimate, you wrote LE. And then you wrote replaces the GFE, the good faith estimate. You guys have to know what's on this slide in front of you. You need to know the new document's name, what it does, and what is the old document that it replaces. And you need to know the timelines that the lender is required to give it for both the school and the state exam. So when does the loan estimate need to be given to the consumer? Within 3 days of the completed loan application, aliens. What does the LE replace?
Good faith estimate.
The GFE, the good faith estimate, correct. And the CD, the closing disclosure, replaces the HUD-1 RESPA settlement statement, or just HUD-1, you could write. See how I got it written here? HUD-1, which is a settlement statement that shows all the actual closing costs, all the actual settlement costs at closing. It accounts for every penny involved in the real estate transaction. It must be accounted for according to federal law. Nobody can get paid in a real estate transaction if it's not disclosed on the formerly called the HUD-1, now called the CD, closing disclosure. And this must be given by the lender to the borrower at least 3 days before closing. Okay. So we're going to highlight under loan estimate now. The LE must be delivered or placed in the mail no later than the 3rd business day after the lender has received the completed application from the borrowers. There must be at least 7 business days between the delivery of the loan estimate and the closing. And then under closing disclosure, highlight the second sentence. The CD must be delivered to the consumer no later than 3 business days before the consumer signs the loan.
What are we highlighting for loan estimate?
Yeah, on page 267 under the LE, from the second sentence to the end of that paragraph, the LE must be delivered or placed in the mail. You see that?
Yes, thank you.
Or 267?
Page 267. Under loan estimate.
Okay.
Okay. And then under closing disclosure, you're going to highlight the second sentence. The CD must be delivered to the consumer no later than 3 business days before the consumer signs the loan. And that's at the closing table that they do that. And then let's go to page 354. 353, 354. This stuff is all over the book, so they should have done a better job keeping it all together. So 353, 354. Okay, everybody there?
Yeah.
Okay, so on page 353, under RESPA requirements, Well, this is the stuff I already went over when the on the slide you're seeing in front of you. This is the when a new LE should be reissued. Here's the timelines for the docs to be issued, which we already went over as well. And this is just a little recap of what we've gone over so far. TRID is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That's a new agency in the federal government. It integrated the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, RESPA, and the Truth in Lending Act, TILA, into the new TILA-RESPA Integrated Disclosure, which if you take those acronyms combined, spells TRID. And TRID stands for the reason I drink, because this crap can get you drinking, right? All right. So the lender's responsible for timely delivery of documents to the consumer. We learned those time frames. When does the LE need to be given to the consumer?
3 days.
Within 3 days of alien to complete a loan application. And the CD has to be given
3 days before closing.
At least 3 days before closing. And if the LE has to be reissued, how much time has to be between the time the LE is issued and the closing?
3-day waiting period.
There has to be at least 7 days between the time the LE is given. It'll trigger an additional 3-day waiting period. However, there has to be at least 7 days between the time the LE is issued and the closing. Here we go. Must be given to the consumer within 3 business days of the completed loan application, aliens. And there must be at least 7 days between the closing and the time the LE is issued. A new LE must be issued if certain changes are made, and this would trigger an additional 3-day waiting period. But keep in mind, even though it triggers an additional 3-day waiting period, if that new LE had to be issued shortly before the closing has to be pushed out because it can't be within 7 days of the time the LE is given. Okay. All right. And then aliens, once again, we already highlighted this on page 267. Straight down, address of the property, loan estimate, loan amount requested, income of all the borrowers, estimated value of the property, the names of all the borrowers, and their social security numbers. So the lender can begin counting time for issuing disclosures or charging fees only after they've showed their intent to proceed by completing the loan application. Okay. My slides are better to study from than the book here because I got everything condensed in these couple of slides rather than all over the book here. So on page 353 under RESPA. RESPA is the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act. It was formally administered by HUD, but President Obama created a new agency called the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And they took over a lot of responsibilities that HUD used to have. RESPA, closing disclosure, was created to ensure that the buyer and seller have knowledge of all the settlement costs. So it has to account for every penny. It's against federal law for anybody to get paid on a transaction if it's not disclosed on the closing statement or closing disclosure. So it's required on any federally related loan to purchase real estate. That's what they mean by new first mortgage loan. That means not for refinancing or loans for reverse mortgages, commercial loans, investment properties, or cash purchases. So let's highlight the Federal Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, RESPA, on page 353, everybody there?
Mm-hmm.
Was administered by HUD, is now administered by the CFPB. It was created to ensure the buyer and seller in residential real estate transactions have knowledge of all settlement costs. No, let me update that on that slide. I don't have it saying that.
Victor, can you say that again?
Yeah, it's on the slide. And let me see. Trying to find it. Hold on a second. Yeah, you're highlighting basically the first two sentences there under RESPA requirements on page 353. Okay. It's required on any federally related loan. Highlight underneath the first set of bullet points, RESPA regulations apply only to transactions involving new first mortgage loans. That means not for refinancing, not for reverse mortgages, commercial loans, investment properties, or cash purchases. Now there's a bulleted list here. Let's highlight the first, in the first bullet list, let's highlight Section 8 prohibits against kickbacks. And I want you to pencil in RESPA above where it says Section 8 so you don't get confused. They're not talking about Section 8 rental housing vouchers here, which they're talking about Section 8 of RESPA law. Having you highlight this because it's on exam. RESPA 8, Section 8 of RESPA makes kickbacks illegal. Those are unearned fees paid to anybody who did not take an active role working in the transaction. Similar to the definition of kickbacks that the Real Estate Commission puts on us, that we can't pay anybody without a license, right? Well, this is unearned fees for anybody for the loan. Now, RESPA Section 10, the last bullet point, we're going to highlight the first sentence in it. Section 10, lenders are not required to maintain escrow accounts to fund property taxes and insurance. Now, let me continue reading. However, if the lender does require an escrow account, RESPA limits the amount of escrow reserves required by a lender to pay property taxes, hazard insurance, and other charges. Highlight, at least once a year, lenders must return overages of $50 or more. So, Section 10 of RESPA. Are lenders required to, are you required to have pay for the coming year's taxes and insurance in your mortgage? No.
No.
You could get billed separately and pay them separately on your own. But if you do include it in your loan, they call it a pity loan. What is a pity loan also referred to as? Anybody recall? Budget loan. A pity loan is also referred to as a budget loan because it includes all your monthly expense for housing, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Turn to page 354. And in the middle of the page, we're gonna, let me see. Yeah, we'll highlight this here again. Under TRID rules, so halfway through the page here, you see where it says under TRID rules, you see the paragraph that begins with that?
Yeah.
Highlight that paragraph. Under TRID rules, the lender is required to provide a 5-page closing disclosure at least 3 business days before the closing, with a minimum of 7 business days between the issuance of the loan estimate and the closing. Here's the closing disclosure on page 355, 356, 357, and so on. I'm going to show you the most important lines on this page. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It requires an answer when I ask you guys a question. Come on. Page 356. You see the section with the black tab, other cost, under other costs?
Yes.
Section H as in Harry. Line numbers 5 and 6. Would you agree? Would you agree? You guys agree or no? You guys see what I'm talking about? Are you guys there?
Yeah. Are you meaning like it's illegal? Like kickbacks are illegal?
No, I said this is the most important section as far as we're concerned, at least I think so, on the closing disclosure.
It would be real estate commission.
That's your commission.
Yeah, we agree on that.
You guys should be excited to look at these numbers. You guys should be excited to be like, yeah, that's the most important number. I want to make sure that shit is right. Right? Other costs.
Agreed.
Section H, line numbers 5 and 6. Those are the commissions to your agency before any kinds of splits or anything. All right. Now, go back to page 242. All right, so let's just highlight under the Your Home Loan Toolkit at the bottom of the page. Your Home Loan Toolkit, a step-by-step guide. Go to the end of the line. Highlight, lenders are obligated to provide the booklet to the borrower within 3 business days of their completed loan application.
Victor, where?
Page 242. Bottom of the page, Your Home Loan Toolkit. First line, Your Home Loan Toolkit, a step-by-step guide. Highlight that. Then at the end of that line, you're going to highlight, lenders are obligated to provide a booklet to the borrowers within 3 business days of their completed loan application.
Don't kill me. Can you please repeat? I'm sorry. I spelled order on my book. So
page 242, bottom of the page. Under the Your Home Loan Toolkit, step-by-step guide. First line, highlight the title. Your Home Loan Toolkit, a step-by-step guide.
Got it.
Then at the end of that line, highlight, lenders are obligated to provide the booklet to the borrower within 3 business days of their completed loan application. All right, go to page 243. Next page here. Conventional, insured, and guaranteed loans. Highlight the first bullet point. Conventional loans, directly between the lender and the borrower with no influence from outside sources. It doesn't say all that, it just says conventional loans are those arranged entirely between the borrower and the lending institution. In other words, there's no outside influence because conventional loans, you get them from people, lenders who are lending their own money. They're not looking at any third parties' guidelines that they need to follow. If I'm lending my own money, I make the final decision if I'm going to lend to you or not, right? That's what a conventional loan is, directly between the lender and the borrower. Make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You could also get government-backed loans. FHA is the Federal Housing Administration, and they insure loans. So highlight in the second bullet point, insured by the FHA, Federal Housing Administration, or guaranteed by the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA. And then after that, it says, with both types, the actual loan comes from the lending institution. So in English, at the end of the line, write neither lends money. FHA and VA does not lend money. The local lending institution does. What does the FHA do?
Insure.
They insure loans. What does the VA do?
Guarantee.
They guaranteed a loan. At least 25% of it, rather. Okay. So neither the FHA or the VA lends money. You know, my slides here, this is a good slide to study. Both the FHA and VA loans require purchase contracts contain a special amendatory clause that states that if the property appraises below the purchase price, the buyer can get out of the contract without penalty. Exam question. What is the purpose of the special amendatory clause required for all FHA and VA loans?
Allows the buyer to get out the contract without penalty if the property is appraised below the purchase price?
Correct. Now, what are the buyer's options if the house appraises below the purchase price offer that they made? Can they still get the loan?
Yeah.
Not for the full purchase price, but they could still get the loan. This would require them to pull more money out of their own pocket to make up the difference. But why would you want to do that? Why would you want to pay more for the house than an appraiser just said it's worth? Probably wouldn't. There's some rare circumstances maybe where a buyer may be like, you know what, I'm willing to pay more than the house is worth because it's already got all the improvements just like I wanted them. So it's for convenience purposes. But does that mean they're going to be paying $50,000 more for the house? No. Maybe 10, maybe 15, but I don't see even past that. Okay. For convenience, instead of having to go through contractors and permitting to get the same work done, right? You could get another house cheaper with the that needs the work done, but it's much cheaper, and you'll have the house cheaper with all those new improvements done. It's just you got to go through the headache of getting contractors and permits and do all the work. All right. Loans directly from the government include those from the NJHMFA, that's the New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency, and the Rec D. By the way, NJHMFA, they do not give loans. So once again, these are loans loans directly from the federal government. Well, they're not loans from the government. Well, not the NJHMFA anyway. That's a government-backed loan. You know what? I should move that in the slide to be more accurately representing. NJHMFA is actually falls into this category up here. Loans directly from the federal government here, however, include from the Rec D, formerly called the Farmer Home Loan Administration, and you get them from the USDA. That's the United States Department of Agriculture, okay? NJHMFA is a New Jersey program. Once again, you get these loans from a lender. They do not lend money, okay? Why does this font seem so bold? Anyway. All right, so then the Rec D gives loans to people in rural areas. So what is urban, suburban, and rural mean? What do these terms mean? It's kind of important for you to know if you're going to be in the property field, right? So urban is a densely populated area, okay? I got to go over this because you know what? If I teach classes and I just ask people, what is an urban area? Some of the answers I get out of people, it's like, it's the ghetto. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, it's an urban area is a densely populated area, like the city, right? Where you can't build out, so you build up. You got a lot of people living in condos or apartment complex buildings, right? So you have a lot more people in a smaller area. You don't have them separated by single family dwellings or multifamily units even. It's a large multifamily unit, right? Apartment buildings, condos, co-ops, etc. High rises. A suburban area, also known as suburbia or suburban, is a little less densely populated area. And then lastly, we have rural area where it's sparsely populated areas where you're not very close to your neighbor. You're not going to spit out the window and hit them in the eye in their own kitchen, you know? So here's a little map. Urban, see a lot of people living close together. Suburban, one person here, here, here. You know, they're not living right on top of each other, right? Like in here. And then rural, you'd be lucky if you could even see your neighbor in some cases, right? That's a rural. Like farmland, but not necessarily farmland. Got it? We're with you, Vic. We got you. All right, cool. Thanks, guys. All right. So how lending works in a nutshell. Let me give this little story for you because it gives you a nice breakdown, which the book doesn't give, but I am going to give you this lesson so you better understand the different types of loans. Ready? Most lenders do not lend their own money. Okay? The lenders that do are called portfolio lenders. And the loans that they give are called conventional loans. So what do you call lenders that lend their own money? Loans directly between the borrower and the lending, wait, how did they word it in the book? Arranged entirely between the borrower and lending institution.
Portfolio lenders.
Those are conventional loans, and you get them from portfolio lenders. Portfolio lenders are lenders that lend their own money, and the loans they give are called conventional. So who do you get the loans from? Who do we get loans from in general? Banks, credit unions, investors are common sources of obtaining funds. Ooh. They lend their depositors money. You know what? I'm going to add a neat little factoid here for you guys. Who are these investors? Investors are common funds for obtaining sources of funds. Sometimes these investors, they could be from a lot of resources. All right, so I updated this a little bit, you see? Banks, credit unions, or investors. So who are these investors? Well, they're commercial loans generally. When you get an investor, you get the funded from insurance companies. Aren't insurance companies sitting on a lot of cash?
Yeah.
You pay out. When's the last time you made a claim on your insurance? Whether it's health or car insurance. Unless you're an awful driver. I mean, when's the last time? You've been paying for years probably for car insurance and never made a claim on it, right? So there's a lot of other people in that same category. So sure, they make payouts for claims every now and then, but aren't they mostly making money? Yeah, they are. So why would they just sit on that money? Wouldn't any smart investor invest it to make more?
Yeah.
And that's what they do. Didn't we see that you could make a lot of money in lending? We did our math problems, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a perfect example. It makes sense for insurance companies to lend. So so there's some of the common sources of obtaining funds for loans. They lend their depositors money. A lot of banks do anyway. The banks will lend their depositors money. Let me say banks. Banks lend their depositors money according to some third-party investors' criteria for loans that they're willing to purchase. And then they sell the loan, which, you ever go into a bank to get a loan and they talk about their lending guidelines? Banks lend their depositors money according to some third-party investors' criteria. I'm going to call that the lending guidelines. Right here, do it this way. Those are the lending guidelines. You ever wonder with the bank, where do they get these lending guidelines from? Well, here's how. For the loans that they're willing to purchase and then sell those loans to them later to get their depositors' money back and some of the interest paid up front as a profit. Sometimes these investors will also pay that local bank a servicing fee to continue handling the collection of the monthly mortgage payments and the billing charges. In a nutshell, that's how banking works. Okay, you go to your local bank to get a loan. Whose money is the bank lending you? Their depositors' money. But look, their depositors may want their money back, right? At some point. So the bank got to get that money back. They just can't keep it lent out. Because what if the depositors come back and want their money? So the depositors lend the money knowing that they have a buyer lined up to purchase that loan for them after they originate that loan. They'll resell that loan to an investor who will give them all their depositors' money back that they loaned out, plus a little bit of interest up front. And that's how the bank makes money. Plus, the bank also sometimes makes money because that investor says, I don't want to deal with the monthly collection of the bill. You do it. We'll pay you a servicing fee. So now the bank makes money by doing the monthly bill collection and just reselling your loan and getting your money back. So they lend your money. They resell that loan. They get their money back. Then they make another loan. They resell it. They get the money back plus some interest. And that's how they make money. That's called banking, my friends. Ever wonder how that worked? No?
Yeah.
Not at all? Okay. At least we got one interested party. Thank you. All right. So where loans are originated to purchase real estate, this is what we call loan origination. When you go to your local bank and they give you a loan to buy a house, they call that loan origination. That's where the loan originates. And they refer to that as the primary mortgage market. So loans are originated in what we call the primary market or primary mortgage market. That's where the lenders, banks, credit unions, and investors will lend money to consumers to purchase real estate with the intent on reselling those loans to investors in what we call the secondary market or secondary mortgage market. So what is the primary market? It's where loans are originated to consumers. The secondary market is where those loans originated to consumers are resold to investors. Boom. Is that good, simple, stupid definitions? All right, anyway, moving on. So how money works in a nutshell, if you guys are interested at all, you can look up a video online. It's called Money is Debt, Promises Unleashed 2. Put that in and you search for that in Google and you'll find a real educational video that is a cartoon, basically. But this guy, he's a world economist, and he does a great job showing how money gets its value and how lending works in the United States and globally, and how banking works in general. How we used to be on the gold standard in the United States, and then later we were taken off the gold standard and put onto the, the system that we're currently on, where banks just snap their fingers and make money out of debt. And how government can print money if they need more. See, in the past, money was, the government can't just print money if they needed more money. Like right now we're doing. They're talking about a spending bill of, what is it, 1.9 trillion, 1.6 trillion, whatever the hell it's at right now, some kind of unbelievable number that begins with a T, right? How many zeros in a trillion? A lot, yeah, that's my answer. I don't know, it's a lot, right? More numbers than I'll ever see, right? Well, it's made up money. The government's printing it out of thin air. That's irresponsible for them to do. See, in the past, we used to be on something called the gold standard. That if you took a dollar bill, you guys ever seen a gold certificate?
No.
Well, dollar bills used to be gold certificates, redeemable in gold or silver. So they were backed by it. So the bills were backed in gold or silver. So the government couldn't just print money at random because if the consumers wanted their money, they wanted to cash it out. Money is just a piece of paper. And that piece of paper has value as long as you believe that it has value. That's how our current standard goes. You know, if you got a dollar bill and it says $1 on it, what is it worth?
$1.
What's that?
$1.
It's worth $1 as long as you believe it's worth $1. So our monetary system works a lot based on belief. As long as as long as the people in the United States have confidence in our monetary system, believing that that piece of paper that says legal tender for all debts, public and private, as long as you believe that it's worth $1, it's worth $1. It used to be that we had gold certificates and silver certificates. Let me see. Let me see if I can look some of these up really quick for you. I'm trying to open up a web browser. It's taking a little bit longer to plan. Come on. Why so slow? Just want to show you what it looks like real quick. Well, over the years, it's varied quite a bit. But these are the way gold certificates used to look. Here, let me see this one. You see, there's a little gold emblem here. I don't know, maybe you can see it better on these. If you guys ever see $20 bills or single dollar bills like eBay, I'm selling it on eBay. All right, never mind. If you guys ever see gold certificates or silver certificates, you know, these are either gold used to actually be, I never seen it with a gold like this. It used to be a red, kind of like this one here. I remember seeing them with the red marker on them. Not here, like this one. Let's take a look at this. You see that stamp there is red. That means that it's redeemable in gold. This certificate is legal tender for all debts, public and private. This certificate certifies the deposit treasury. Okay, but oh no, this is a silver with red. Blue was usually silver certificate, and red was gold. Okay, well. Maybe I'm getting them mixed up, or I don't know. It's been a while. So we have silver certificates and gold certificates where these were in blue or in red. Red typically was redeemable in gold, and blue is in silver. But today we don't have any of that. Today we just have a $1 bill that it looks like this. It's green, right? And on it, it just says legal tender for all debts, public and private. But you see, it doesn't say redeemable for gold or redeemable for silver certificate here, does it? It's not backed by anything anymore. It's backed by your confidence. That's what it's backed by. Geez. If you guys ever see those pictures of people in like Uganda or something, got a wheelbarrow full of money? No. To buy like hardly anything?
Why Uganda?
Because the people don't have confidence in the money in their monetary system anymore. So it takes like a wheelbarrow full of money to buy like a stick of bubble gum. You know, millions of dollars don't get you anything. Okay, they call that inflation. All right, so anyway, money is debt, promises unleashed. That's a good video that'll teach you about that stuff. I believe everybody should have their kids look at it when they hit high school. years. Anyway, conventional loans are those directly between the borrower and the lender with no third party involvement or influence. Who do you get them from? Portfolio lenders. They're lenders who lend their own money with no intent to resell the loan. They usually don't resell those loans. They keep them in their own investment portfolio, thus their name, portfolio lender. Make sense?
Yes.
So portfolio loans, portfolio lenders, their loans are called conventional. They're directly between the borrower and lender. Don't confuse this with conforming loans, which you're going to see in chapter 15. Conforming loans are loans that conform to Fannie Mae's lending guidelines. Okay, so with conventional loans, lenders have the final say in who they're going to lend their money to, so they're more flexible in lending. That doesn't mean you take your bad borrowers who got crappy credit scores to them. They're not going to lend their money to them. They'll lend money to people who don't meet certain lending criteria of third-party investors to purchase the loans, okay? And they'll lend their own money to if they don't see those loans as risky. Let me give you an example. I usually give this as an example in class. I got a friend who, he owns about 15 houses. He's a fireman. He owns a bar. The guy's credit score was like 840 at the time. And he was looking to buy a 2-family house for $200,000. The rents on the 2 units are probably going to pay for the mortgage itself, right? He couldn't get a loan to buy a $200,000 home for a 2-family house. Guy owns 15 houses, a bar, makes good money. His credit score's phenomenal, and he couldn't get a $200,000 loan. Why? Because certain lenders have lending criteria that say if you own more than 3 properties, then you don't qualify for these loans. Other loans, you know, they have different debt to income ratio requirements. And that's what threw him off. Because even though he makes a lot of money, what do people who make a lot of money like to do with their money?
Spend it.
Invest.
They like to keep it. How do you keep more of the money that you earn? You don't give it to the government. How do you avoid paying money to the government? I told you that the first day of class, the beginning of this class. Have write-offs, right? Remember I told you that this class itself, you could deduct, this class is tax deductible against the income that you make. Mm-hmm. So therefore, if you you're reducing your taxable income, right? You're paying less in taxes. So that's a good thing to do. Pay less money to Uncle Sam, right? Reducing your taxable income by charging off your expenses, right? But the problem is, you have too many write-offs, you can have a problem getting a loan in the future. For example, my friend who was having the trouble buying this 2-family house for $200,000, actually it was $190, but splitting hairs here. He's cheap. Go ahead, ask me how cheap.
How cheap?
There we go, thank you. How cheap is he? All right, he's so cheap that when he goes to Home Depot, he picks a receipt up off the ground and he writes it off on his taxes. So what does that happen? What does that do then tax time? Well, if you look at the person's tax records, when they're going to borrow money, the lender is going to want to see their tax records, right? It looks like they're spending all the money that they're making because they got so many write-offs. So most lenders denied him. He couldn't get a loan. So I took him to a portfolio lender. Sometimes they call this real world decision-making lending. To a portfolio lender who loans their own money. They looked at the situation. They're like, okay, 15 properties, never late on a mortgage payment. 15 houses plus a bar, never late on a mortgage payment. Credit score's phenomenal, 840, wow. Guy makes decent money at his job to begin with. He's buying a 2-family house for $190,000. This is a no-brainer. The house, the rents are going to pay for itself. Yeah, we don't see this as a big risk. So that lender decided to lend their own money. See, the thing is, when the lender lends their own money, they can make those decisions. But often lenders don't. They lend other people's money. So they need to resell those loans. And they need to line up a buyer for those loans in advance. And those buyers give strict lending criteria for the types of loans they're willing to buy. Can't have more than 3 houses. Your debt to income ratio can't be off by a certain amount. It can't, they got all these different criteria. And obviously he did not meet them. So, but he was a low risk borrower. He wasn't somebody who was poor credit, not a good history of paying his debts. Those are not the people you take to portfolio lenders to get a conventional loan. Okay. Now, typically conventional loans require a 20% down payment. Okay. However, I have seen as low as 3%. Depends on the lender and their program. Maximum seller concession allowed for a conventional loan is 3%. What is a seller's concession? You guys recall from contract chapter? It's any money that the seller concedes back to the buyer for their closing costs or repairs, what have you. So with conventional loans, conventional banking theory says that if the lender loans, if the LTV is higher than 80%, if they're lending more than 80%, the borrower is required to carry PMI, private mortgage insurance. What does PMI, private mortgage insurance, insure? It only insures the amount less than 20% that the borrower put down. It does not insure the whole loan. It is not life insurance. It only insures the amount. So if the borrower put down 5%, how much does PMI insurance cover?
15.
The other 15. That's it. That's all PMI insurance insures. So let's go to under conventional loans. Let's write max seller concession allowed 3%. Like this, maximum seller concession allowed 3%. Max seller concession allowed 3%. Okay. Under private mortgage insurance, in the third line down, we're going to highlight with any down payment less than 20%, a conventional loan must be accompanied by private mortgage insurance, PMI. Okay. Next paragraph. At the end of the first line, highlight lenders drop PMI insurance at the borrower's request when equity reaches 20%, and that coverage be dropped automatically when it reaches 22. So this slide tells you all about the PMI insurance. It insures the amount less than 20% the borrower put down when purchasing. If the equity reaches 20%, PMI can be dropped at the borrower's request, and the lender must drop it when the equity is 22. What is PMI insurance insuring if the equity is 22%?
The loan?
What does PMI insurance cover?
The loan.
The loan amount.
No.
No.
It insures any amount less than 20% the borrower put down when purchasing. So if the borrower only put down 5% when they purchased, what does PMI insurance insure? 5%. The other 15. Right? Here, let me put that as an example here. Does that make sense now? If I word it like that? I hope so.
Yeah.
All right. Now, if the equity reaches 20%, it can be dropped because at that point, PMI is only insuring the amount less than 20% the borrower put down. So when you reach equity of 20%, there's nothing left to be insured.
Victor, I have a question.
Yeah.
With a conventional loan, don't you have to put down 20%?
No, it depends on the lender. It says typically requires larger down payment, 20%. I've seen sometimes 25 or 30% of down payment required by the lender, but I've also seen as low as 3% with a conventional loan. It depends on the lender. It's their money. They make all the decisions on who they're going to lend and what the criteria are, right? So I'm going to lend you my money. Do I got all the say in what my criteria are to lend it to you?
So it's safe to say it'd be rare that someone is putting down less than 20%, but PMI is only covering the difference of what the person did not put up.
Yeah, so if they only put down 3%, what does PMI insurance insure?
17%.
Yes. That's it. You got it. All right. So if
sorry, the PMI always has to go for conventional loans if it's less than 20%?
Yes.
Okay.
So why would someone want to do conventional versus FHA?
Well, when you get an FHA loan, you got to have mortgage. You got to have something that's called MIP. That's a mortgage insurance premium that you have to pay up front that insures the entire loan amount, not just the amount less than 20% that you put down. But if you put down less than 20%, you also have to pay the monthly mortgage insurance premium that's similar to PMI.
So what?
It doesn't matter. You're paying it anyway, you know. So you're paying a higher insurance fee premium with a FHA loan because the insurance insures the entire loan.
Okay, so it's better to have a conventional loan.
Yeah, yeah. If I'm representing a seller, I will, and there's a bidding war, and there's two buyers. One's got an FHA loan, one's got a conventional loan. I like the conventional loan better. Another reason for that is because conventional loans do not have certain conditions attached to them, that the property be in a certain good condition or repair. FHA loans, if the property needs work, if it has lead paint and the paint is peeling on the external or internal of the house, you're not going to get an FHA loan unless the owner scrapes that paint and repaints over. It cannot have peeling paint. Otherwise, you won't get an FHA loan for buy that house.
Let me ask you another question. If you're buying a house and you need to take a loan for improvement, can you do that with a conventional loan or only FHA? You could do it with both. Those are improvement loans. Why would one choose FHA then? Well, FHA is easier to get. Oh. Hey, it requires lower debt to income ratios. You know what the credit score requirement is to get an FHA loan? 620, right? There isn't one. Oh. But your local lender puts a restriction on it. Typically, where'd you get that number 620 from? 620, anything below 620 is considered subprime. That means it's less than average, meaning it's not good. Right? So they'll lend to anybody if they got a credit score over 620. Well, plus your debt to income ratio and other factors, you know. Can you get an FHA loan if you have a credit score of less than 620? You just say yes. I just said that FHA doesn't have a credit score requirement, but the local lender does. It's possible then. It is possible if you find a lender who's willing to make riskier loans. I've seen FHA loans with a down payment as little as, hold on one second, I'm going to pull up one of these guys in a simple Google search that I'm going to do really quick. I'm going to show you guys. You can get an FHA loan with its credit score as little as 580. Although if your credit score is 580, I'm suggesting to people to don't go buying a house. Get your credit, get your financial house in order. Okay. Trying to just pull up this one link I see all the time. Here we go. It looks like FHA because it's FHA.com. There's nothing called that. That's not FHA's website. FHA never had its own website. FHA is part of HUD. Although FHA does now have a website, it's FHA.gov, G-O-V, not FHA.com. This is a mortgage company. Look at it. It looks cartoonish, right? But check this out. FHA. Let's just look at their main website. FHA. 580 credit score with only 3.5% down payment. Boom. Mic drop. Boom. Depends on the lender. I've never really seen a lender that would accept it less than 580, but they could. It's their money. FHA does not have a credit score requirement. Even in the book says 620 minimum FHA credit score requirement. That's wrong. That's false. It's incorrect. FHA has no minimum credit score, although the local lending institutions do. So would that be on like the exam, the state exam? No. All right. So actually, let me back this up a little bit. See, PMI, we're talking about PMI insurance here. It is not life insurance. It does not insure the entire loan like MIP does on an FHA loan. Like the MIP insurance does for FHA type loans. All right. So
here's a list of a couple of portfolio lenders I put together for you guys for your own little Rolodex contact manager. Rolodex sounds so dated. Anybody knows what a Rolodex is?
Yeah.
All right, good. I'm not that old yet then. All right, it's like a contact manager on paper on a little wheel that just spun around on your desk. Anyway, so here's some portfolio lenders for you guys. So if you guys ever have a good borrower, but they just can't, they don't meet a lot of lenders' lending guidelines, you know, you could take them to one of these lenders. They lend their own money. You may be able to still get them the loan to buy the house. Okay, so here's just a list for you I put together for your convenience. And I gave you a little tip here on how to find a portfolio lender yourself. If you're ever driving by a construction project and you see that there's a big banner out there, project is funded by, there you go. They're a portfolio lender. You know, a lot of times lenders don't, lenders won't have a sign out there like that unless they're lending their own money. Okay, so you guys can snap a picture of this, or do I just change the slide? I'll change it. So, what's that?
I was just saying you could change it.
Okay. FHA loans now. Okay. Oh, by the way, so at the bottom of the page, 243, equity is the difference between the market value of the property and what's still owed on it. I told you that before. You may want to underline that so it doesn't seem like one continued highlight. And then highlight the line underneath it that says BPO is a broker's price opinion. This is a written estimate of value that resembles a CMA, a comparative market analysis.
Where is that?
On the last paragraph on page 243.
Right, I'm near.
What's the last thing you highlighted?
Oh, right here, equity is the difference between the market value.
So underline that, underline it. So it doesn't seem like one big continued highlight from the last thing you highlighted. And then underneath that, you're highlighting BPO means broker's price opinion. And this is a written estimate of value similar to a CMA. We as real estate agents usually do BPOs for banks and we do CMAs for consumers. BPO is a little more involved with the numbers, a little more math involved too. Depending on the type of BPO the lender wants. All right, turn the page. FHA, okay. We're gonna highlight a lot of stuff that's all over the place. Skip this, highlight this, skip that. Or you can look at this slide, this beautiful slide that I made for you, and you could study it. Okay, so FHA is the Federal Housing Administration. FHA insures loans. It insures the lender for the entire loan amount against loss. So in the event that the borrower defaults, the lender will, the FHA will foreclose on them, and then they will pay back the lender every penny to make sure that they do not lose any money. How do they do that? Well, FHA is a government insured insurance program. So when FHA forecloses on somebody, those homes then become what we call HUD homes. So these loans are for purchasing only of owner-occupied 1 to 4 family homes. They're not for investment properties. They're not for fixing and flipping. They're not only for first-time home buyers. They're for any, this could be your 10th home that you ever owned in your life. An FHA loan, however, is only for owner-occupied homes, so you're only allowed to have one at a time. You understand the reasoning behind that now? You're only allowed to have one loan at a time because you're only allowed to live in one home at a time as your primary residence. Gotcha? So FHA 203B is the most common FHA loan program that's out there. Now, FHA has a lot of loan programs. They got adjustable rate. They got fixed. They got straight loans. They got all kinds of loans. Okay, they got rehab loans, rehabilitation loans. Okay, But the FHA 203B is their most common fixed rate loan that they have out there. It requires a low down payment of only 3.5%. So the LTV on it would be 96.5. It does have a repair requirement that the home be in a livable condition, not requiring a lot of repairs. Like I told you, if it has paint peeling on the interior or exterior of the building, you'll not get an FHA loan. If the front steps or railing are loose, you'll not get an FHA loan unless the seller repairs them. So you see why a seller won't like your financing as much as a conventional loan? Because if they do have some of these things wrong with their house, you won't be able to buy the house with this type of loan unless the seller does repairs. And the seller don't want to do repairs. Make sense? Okay. So the maximum seller concession allowed on an FHA loan is 6% of the loan. It requires an upfront mortgage insurance premium called MIP, which is charged at closing, or can be wrapped into the loan itself, which insures the lender for the entire loan in case of default. An upfront insurance premium that you don't have to pay upfront. Okay. Government. Not exactly the most efficient thing out there, is it? MIP is that one-time upfront mortgage insurance premium that you have to pay. But in addition to that one-time upfront MIP mortgage insurance premium, you'll also have to pay a monthly premium. So MIP mortgage insurance premium can be dropped only when the equity reaches 78%. So basically when you paid off 78% of the property, that's the only time you could drop it. Kind of the opposite of the PMI, right? Which can be dropped when equity reaches what?
20.
And must be dropped when it reaches
20.
This one can't be dropped until there's only 22% of the loan left. So when it's got 78% equity. But only after 11 years, if the buyer put down at least 10% at origination. Otherwise, it can never be dropped. Yikes. All right. So why do most people get FHA loans?
It's easier to get.
And don't require a lot of money to put
Lower down payment.
Only requires 3.5% down payment versus a 20% most conventional loans require, right?
Yes.
So wait a minute. But the MIP coverage can be dropped when equity reaches 78%, but only after 11 years if the borrower put down at least 10% at the origination. Otherwise, it can never be dropped. So is an FHA loan a type of loan you want to be in forever?
No.
No. It's a good loan to get the house. And once you build up a little bit of equity in it, let's just say 20%, you refinance into a conventional loan. And then you don't have to pay insurance in the loan anymore.
Could you also do that if you at first you are living in it and then you decide to keep the house but rent it? Can you refinance then?
Sure. You can refinance into a conventional loan, and then you could use another FHA loan to buy your next house that you move to.
What's the minimum credit score for a conventional loan?
Conventional loan, it depends on the lender. Well, I would say 620 because anything below 620 is considered subprime. But it really depends on the lender because conventional loans are between the lender and the borrower. What your credit score is going to have a direct impact on the interest rate and the amount of down payment they're going to require of you. they call it risk-based lending for a reason. The more risk involved, the more they're going to want you to put down. The higher the interest rate they're going to charge you. You know, hey, if you want to borrow my money, and you got a poor credit history, a poor history of repaying money, you know, I'm taking a huge risk here by lending it to you, aren't I? Maybe I'm going to charge you a higher interest rate to lend you that money. Maybe I'm going to require you to also put more money down to borrow that money. You see, that's the way conventional loans work. FHA, hey, the loan is insured by the government. Who cares? If you default, the government's going to pay me back every penny. What do I care? That's the way the banks look at it. Does that make sense? Or you not get it? You get it? Got it? Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Yes.
Yeah, we got it.
I want to make sure everybody understands what I'm saying, you know?
Yeah, we understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
All I need you to tell me, then I move on. I want to make sure you guys understand. I want to make sure I'm teaching you good. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so any or all the down payment and closing costs can be a gift, not a loan from the relatives, because if it's a loan, then it has to factor into your debt to income ratio, and then you may not qualify for it. Now, FHA has other programs like the FHA 203K, K for construction. It's not construction loan, it's an improvement loan or rehabilitation loan to be more accurate, okay? But what is considered, so FHA 203K loans would cover more extensive rehabilitation work on the house. What is considered extensive? Let me show you something. You are gonna love this. Did you guys come to my house to pick up your book?
Yeah.
You may have seen this house
I did.
around the corner from my house here. Where the hell is it? There we go. Yep. I'm going to show you something. Ready? These people use the construction loan, kind of like a 203K. Just give me a second. I'm going to wait for this I'm opening up a picture here. Takes a second for it to open. Once it opens, I will share it. La-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. All right. Look at this house. This is this house. You notice that the whole house is torn down. The only thing that's here is a garage and a wall with a chimney attached to it. Well, they ended up tearing down this wall. They didn't leave this wall. Instead, they left this garage and they built a whole new house around this garage. As a matter of fact, they also dug out the basement to twice the length. So they made this house deeper and taller. Here's another angle. Another angle as I'm driving by. You see the wall there, and then here's the garage. They use an FHA 203K loan for this. Look at that. No house. House is gone. Then they built this. Look at this house compared to the neighboring house. It's still under construction here. See the neighbor house? This house used to be this house.
Wow.
Now it's got a whole entire second level. And look, they even built it up above the garage, a full level above the garage. And then they didn't only build it up that way, they also built it up deep. This house is twice as deep as this one. So in reality, this house is about double. It's about 3.5 times the size of this house. Here, this angle gives you a little bit better look on the depth of the house. You see how deep this house goes back now by comparison? And here's the house. There's still where it's closer towards completion. Took another photo here for you guys. A monster compared to what's next door now, right?
Mm-hmm.
They used an FHA 203K loan for this. How come they built the house around that original garage though? How come they didn't tear it all down and just put up a whole new house? Well, because then that would be new construction. See, on the tax records for this property, it's going to show that if whatever the original build date was for this house, let's say it was 1950 something. Guess what? In a tax record, it still shows a 1950 something home. Remodeled in 2021. It's an old builder's trick. It's a way to fool the tax man. Because let's face it, City Hall ain't too bright. The government's not the brightest, the sharpest pencil in the box, I guess you could say. So it's a way to fool the tax man. So as far as the tax man is concerned, it's still a 1950 something house there that was just remodeled in 2021. The building department does not communicate with the taxing department in the majority of the municipalities in New Jersey. You could probably count on one hand how many municipalities where the building department communicates with the tax department.
What's the point of that?
What's the point of that? How much you think the taxes are going to be on a property that was built in 1950 something that was remodeled in 2021 versus new construction in 2021? Plus, I'm sure that they don't have this total square footage listed there in the tax records too. You're paying a lot less in taxes until the tax man someday catches up to them. It's an old builder's trick. Leave one wall standing and build a whole new house around it. Ain't that neat? Well, there's your lesson for the day. That's a good one, right? All right. What do we call that rehabilitation loan? These loans are usually meant for remodeling of a kitchen, or when you buy a house and it does need some work, it needs a remodel, or you want to build a garage or something. But who's to say what extensive remodeling is? Right? With the example I just gave you, they built a whole brand new house. They used one loan to buy the property and another one to do improvements on it. Well, it's actually all built into one loan. It's not two loans. It's one loan. It's just the lender gives the loan to buy the property and then disperses funds to the contractors as they do the work in stages for the construction. They have to submit their plans in advance to their lender of what it is that they want done to the house. And they got to find a contractor who's willing to do the work up front and supply the materials up front and then get reimbursed in stages. Stage one requires maybe the house to get the foundation and up to a certain point. And then they'll send an appraiser in to make sure that the whole phase one is done before the lender disperses the funds to the contractors for the work done. And then stage two and stage three and so on, right? So the house.
Oh, so Victor.
Yep.
So you don't, because I was under the impression under the FHA loan, you have to pay for the work yourself and then you get reimbursed. Just saying you could find a contractor who would do the work before they get paid.
Correct. So, and often, okay. I'm not sure about Home Depot, but I know Lowe's got a program like this. So I'm sure Home Depot does too, where they'll supply materials to the contractors on credit, and so basically, if you are building a house and you're using the 203K program, you could submit that paperwork from your lender to Lowe's, and they'll supply all the building materials, knowing that they're going to get reimbursed from your lender when the stage of construction is complete.
Wow. Okay.
And then you need to have a contractor who has the money to pay their workers up front, because they're not going to get paid until the first stage of the construction is done. Yeah, you follow? So
yes.
you
got Lowe's like.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so Lowe's, like a company like Lowe's, they do that because they're aware of programs like the FHA loan, like the FHA 2 or 3K loan.
Yeah. And they know that money's coming from the bank, and that it's a government insured loan. So I mean, what do they got to lose, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, this is great to know. You know, some lenders give seminars to real estate agents on learning about the FHA 203K program and how they could show their clients how to use it to their advantage. But keep in mind, it's only for owner occupants. It's not for investment properties. You have to intend to live in this house.
Yes, yes.
I say intend because they only give loans for owner-occupied properties. But stuff happens in people's lives and things happen. Maybe you intended to live in it and something happened and then you never end up moving there. Then you sell it at a profit. Kind of makes you an investor, right? But you know, the FHA will get they'll catch on to it if you keep doing that over and over again. But you can do it once or twice, and you know, you're supposed to intend to live in it, though. Okay. Now, other FHA loans are available, including adjustable rate mortgages, straight loans, you know, et cetera. FHA loans can be assumed if the new borrower qualifies. That means that they could just take over the loan. And FHA loans require special amendatory clause. And what does that amendatory clause say? If the property does not praise for the purchase price, the buyer can get out of the contract without penalty. Okay. Now, FHA does have loan limits on how much a borrower could borrow for a 1, 2, 3, or 4 family house, depending on the county that they live in. And I got 2 links here. And also, if they're buying a condo, the complex has to be approved. And if it's not on the approved list, it could get approved if you fill out the application and submit the information. Now, here's the FHA loan limits by county in New Jersey. I created a link here for you. I'm going to show them to you really quick because we're almost done with class here. Or we pretty much are done with class. Okay, so it takes you to this website right here. This is the HUD website. And let's just look up New Jersey. And I'm just putting in New Jersey. We'll check out all counties because their lending limits depends on what county you're in. Okay. Look, you see the title, 1, 2, 3, 4 family house. And here's the county name, right? So depending on what county you live in, for a 1 family house, Atlantic County is one of the cheaper counties. So they'll only loan up to $356,000 in change for a 1 family house. Whereas Bergen County, as you could see here, is a more expensive county. They'll lend up to $822,000 for a single family home. You see how the different counties have different lending limits depending on the county that you live in. Okay. So that's what these links are for at the bottom here. All right, so all right, guys. I wish I could finish this chapter with you guys, but our time is up. You want me to give you the highlights or the rundown of the highlights, or you guys got it right here just from this slide?
I'm okay with the slides, with everyone else.
Huh? What'd you say?
I'm okay with the slides.
Okay. Okay. All right, guys. Then just let your instructor know that you left off on slide number. Well, the last slide that you did was slide 44, so you're on slide 45 now. So let me make a note of that because I'll also text her just so she knows. slide 45, chapter 14. And let me give you guys the poll here.
So you have to show.
Thanks, Victor.
You're welcome, guys.
Thank you, Victor.
You're welcome.
All right, good night.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Oh, wait.